My name is Erica Lorraine Spencer, and I remain subject to state surveillance and terrorism by the state of California that is operating a malicious targeting system, which is referred to as federal group stalking and monitoring via communication devices. And it is in violation of federal stalking statute 18 U.S.C. sections 2261A subsections 1 and 2. My website and podcast serve the public good by publishing evidence of the public entity's ceaseless engagement in a pattern of conduct intended to stalk and monitor via communication devices, surveil, harass, and terrorize an American citizen in concert with the people of the state of California. Documentation serves the lawful purposes of wide exposure, federal prosecution, and influencing federal legislation with policies specifically designed to punish, dismantle, and disincentivize an unprecedented targeting system by a public entity that acts in concert with the people of the state in order to criminally place under surveillance and terrorize an American citizen, which is a matter of public corruption in the state of California.
It is currently Thursday, March 13th, 2025. It's currently 4:22 a.m. This is documentation of ongoing criminal interference with quiet enjoyment while AVANATH Capital Management. This is a third-party gang stalking landlord, a corrupt commercial actor engaged in federal group stalking and monitoring with the state of California, and also one that is acting with a very detailed notation regarding its impunity and the malice, which is, again, malice is inherent where a commercial actor is engaged in federal group stalking and monitoring. So this is a gang stalker that is profiting from and using its business as a means of facilitation for the state to maintain criminal surveillance and furtherance of murder and kidnapping. And so it is underway inside of the apartment that belonged to the third party Tracy Banks by ongoing ceaseless interference. Repeated, ongoing, relentless interference with the television, which is a communication device. It is internet connected. It is the interference with the antenna. So this is also occurring with simultaneity to what I'm doing on my devices, which I've documented for years. And I've also documented even in 2025, the entity is engaging in what is psychological torture tactics. It's speaking to the mental illness of the demon possessed who are gang stalking, who engage in a very highly predictable and very well thoroughly laid out pattern of conduct. And it is speaking to obsession and mental illness while at 4 a.m. The demons are not asleep, they are awake, gang stalking, sharing in the criminal elements of monitoring, while the television is the means whereby audible activity, light activity is created inside of the apartment where impossible light remains, where the fake sun is present during the day, and that's the prop in the sky space hovering over all these demons who are gang stalking on a 24-hour basis. It's the same exact light activity at nightfall when there is no fake sun. And this is also how you are able to understand the entire malicious guise of an environment where a bunch of psychopaths are stalking one person together. And this is how stalking in an apartment complex, in other words, stalking in what is a facilitating environment, a facilitating neighborhood, if you will, masquerading as a private residential area, private residence, a private home, where the people of the state, even your family members, are masquerading as private citizens like the target individual, and they are not. They are the people of the state. It's the government. And using communication devices, interfering with appliances, interfering with the use of your devices is a means of creating activity, and doing so with simultaneity to what the targeted individual is doing. This is how you're monitoring. And it's demonic. That demonic method of keeping someone under surveillance is terrorism. It's domestic terrorism, and it's directly incriminating everybody that's in relevant position. The demons in units 33 through 64 are sharing in the criminal elements of monitoring. The demons are not monitoring while one aspect of the pattern of conduct is underway and nobody's standing in the path to maintain that ongoing monitoring system. It is directly speaking to what everyone else is doing, which is the fact that they're not sleeping. I am the ongoing target at 4 o'clock in the morning, and as I documented the details in the text in the document entitled WSA-The People, the television begins, again, pursuant to the very highly repeated pattern, more interference with the television, more so as I pay attention to it by documenting it. I am aware of what what demons are doing around me on an ongoing basis for purposes of documenting it, and also for informing those that are witnessing and for educational purposes, and that you would not be ignorant about the enemy's devices. But again, Satan is not the focus. Satan is a defeated foe. Satan is really pathetic. I mean, you're literally stalking. So you have a population of the demon-possessed who are stalking and maintaining awareness of the environment. And because I don't document it at that moment, the demon-possessed are short-sighted and very highly inferior, focusing only on me. And their behavior is based on what I do at the moment that I do it, and looking for some sort of reaction. These are the demon-possessed that are engaging in what is supposed to be steering toward psychological torture, wanting to impact you in some negative way. And so what they do is also based on my reaction to what the demon-possessed are doing. This is speaking to the prosecution for inflicting harms that are designed to psychologically torture another. This is relevant to damages of a third-party commercial actor such as AVANATH. It's relevant to the criminal interference with quiet enjoyment for the criminal prosecution of a third party, a commercial actor such as AVANATH. And it's also relevant to prison terms and mental asylums for the gang stalking entity that is remaining in relevant position in units 33 through 64. Literally, the interference with the use of appliances and devices in your home is directly speaking to the people who are gang stalking with that entity. It is one and the same. And so you are legally analyzing based on the environment that surrounds you, in the same way that the specific environment under the fake sun is directly incriminating the entity that surrounds you. Okay, in the same way that the government gang stalking directly is directly incriminating the entity that surrounds you, and you're not in that environment and going to escape prosecution. It's directly pointing to you and pointing to how profusely that prosecution is going to be. All right. This is criminal interference with quiet enjoyment at 4 o'clock in the morning. It's 4:27 on Thursday, March 13, 2025. This is a sex offense that's underway by government, a sex offense committed by a corrupt company, a sex offense committed by the population that is gang stalking, and that's going to be sliced down with regard to every defendant who will be named and will be standing for before a judge in federal court to be prosecuted for what an entire entity committed together, and it includes kidnapping. The entity is doing so while I'm publishing, editing documentation regarding the kidnapping that this same entity committed in June of 2022. Doing so via criminal defamation, kidnapping, engaging in psychological torture, engaging in terrorism, stalking in an engineered light, while at the same time criminally defaming and seeking to what is abuse positions that those in the medical profession have for purposes of kidnapping in the state of California. These are the demon-possessed that are in the medical profession and are simultaneously engaging in what is gang stalking, psychological torture, and then wanting to examine you, diagnose you, even when they don't actually have any relationship to you, other than for kidnapping you and keeping you unlawfully in their facilities in order to manufacture information and manufacture an entire relationship on paper, which is libelous criminal conduct, criminal defamation for purposes of kidnapping. Even when they make it up, in other words, they are doing so while they're simultaneously engaged in psychological torture in order to get a response out of you, where they seek to kidnap you by defaming you, falsely depicting your character. That is worthy of federal prison. And so while I am in the process of editing as many of those that I can recall, as many of those that I documented with regard to any means of identification at the Arrowhead Regional Medical Center in San Bernardino, California, which is a state facilitating venue. The very well documented San Bernardino County has many different types of venues that are all engaged in federal group stalking and monitoring, including Arrowhead Regional Medical Center. As I am engaged in that, it is on my communication devices, which are under surveillance at 4 o'clock in the morning at an apartment complex that's a facilitating venue where the people of the state are gang stalking with the entity that is interfering with the use of a communication device in the living room, while it is monitoring the device that I am in use of while editing such document in order to publish it on the internet, which the demon-possessed are hostile to. The demon-possessed are severely mentally unstable, and they tend to engage in conduct that incriminates them and harms their interests, where in the future they will be in court and will want to plead some sort of form of innocence, which is impossible. Okay, but nonetheless, you are documenting what is the pattern that they engage in, and it's based on what I'm doing, and it is documentation regarding kidnapping that the currently gang stalking entity has already committed. You are a documented kidnapper that is still gang stalking and monitoring the one whom you have kidnapped before. Everybody in units 33 through 64 and everybody working for AVANATH, they are indeed going to prison. All right, and they are engaging in psychological torture while their previous act of kidnapping kidnapping is being documented in order to publicly shame them pursuant to the federal prosecution that they will be subject to. All right, this is a kidnapping committed by an entity. And when you are gang stalking by residents, you are that entity that is doing so, and they're aware of it. They're hostile to the fact that I am exposing it. This is what informs the very, unintelligent, yet very problematic for purposes of prosecuting you based on what you continue to do and what you already committed. Okay, it is currently 4:31 a.m. If you can hear the television audio going in and out, it's the entity that is gang stalking by virtue of criminal interference with the antenna. There is no malfunction. All right, it is a flawless signal regarding capturing QVC. That's why I'm on this channel. It's for purposes of documenting the entity that is keeping me under surveillance in the living room at Tracy Banks, where literally everything in the environment and everything surrounding me is used for monitoring me. So it's very easy with regard to documenting how the elements of monitoring remain underway. It's 4:31 a.m. It's criminal interference with quiet enjoyment. It is psychological torture. It's relevant to also documenting and taking note of malice and impunity, because people are going to prison for longer and longer. People that include the police department that engaged in this kidnapping in June of 2022, the same police department that is still gang stalking, including now, while the communication device in the living room is being interfered with. These same demons are going to stand before federal judges, and they're going to prison for even longer for the impunity that I'm documenting now. I don't have to have these cowards in my face in order to document and demonstrate the fact that they belong in prison for even longer. Okay? It is 4:32 a.m. on Thursday, March 13, 2025. This is P.O.C. Erica Lorraine Spencer here. The following is an audio version of video evidence that is captured for purposes of mass distribution, which is why I am capturing it and sharing it on the podcast for evidentiary purposes, and also to reveal the wealth of documentation that extends beyond what it is that I document on podcasts. Much of the video and images will be published onto the YouTube channel, the P.O.C, and it is also shared on the Google Drive. Again, this is for purposes of revealing what I remain subject to, which is federal group stalking and monitoring. It is a demonic system of state surveillance that the government is practicing in concert with the people of the state. And it should be known and well understood that for the government to engage in federal group stalking and monitoring, this is a crime that is committed with a criminal purpose to threaten the life of an American citizen. This is to conspire to murder and or permanently kidnap an American citizen while engaging in a perpetual sex offense in concert with the people of the state. It is currently 3:22 p.m. This is impossible light activity. There's a covered patio structure, so this is demonic. This is called stalking with light. And as I'm in operation of my communication device, the demon that's going to the mental asylum inside of the apartment is right on the opposite side of the wall, stalking in the path. Tracy Banks, license 9HUZ740. Also the demon that's directly above, stalking in the path, license 5WUB715 in unit number 55, are stalking while engineered light is coating a patio glass door. That is the shadow of trees that are at a distance while interfering with the operation of the television, while I'm in operation of my devices in the supernatural environment. At the same time, while interfering with the television, while stalking with light under what is the fake sun, because that's the evidence of what is stalking with the fake sun, when you have light that is not sunlight all over and on the inside, because this is my shadow here that's also not sunlight. The entity is amplifying ongoing noise. AVANATH Capital Management is going to be prosecuted for engaging in an egregious sex offense of its occupants while stalking them. And this is the absurdity of the corrupt companies that are gang stalking, and it's entirely demonic. They're going to be prosecuted for terrorism of its own occupants, and it's in violation of the Violence Against Women Act, while its residents are gang stalking the occupants. That's what the demon in Unit 51, the demon in Unit 55 are sharing in, intentionally and knowingly and maliciously and continuously and obsessively doing. In a supernatural environment, these are demon-possessed stalkers who are also sex offenders doing the same thing moments ago while my panties were down, my legs were spread open. These same sex offenders salivating and worshiping my genitalia, sharing in a sex offense as well in doing so. This is what the city of Ontario is obsessed with. That's why there's a whole fake sun over this specific building in Ontario, and it's not over Los Angeles, over me in Alvarado Gardens. That's not the natural environment that I documented at this time of year on this day, including at the same time, because the sun was is rising and setting over me at Alvarado Gardens, where LAPD were stalking, just like you know the Ontario Police is stalking in the city of Ontario with the demon-possessed population at Woodside Senior Apartments as an ongoing government program of criminal surveillance. Okay, amplified booming occurring with simultaneity to capturing this video, capturing images. These are the mentally ill demons who are going to mental asylums. Remember the demons in Unit 41, they're going to mental asylums while they're still gang stalking, still engaged in criminally interfering with quiet enjoyment, still stalking amongst impossible light activity, engaging in what is psychological torture while they are simultaneously being prosecuted. That's why they're going to a mental asylum. And it's the same for this psychopath that's on the opposite side of this bedroom wall, engaged in the incestuous sex offense of monitoring the genitalia of the target individual who is a blood relative of her that she conspired to murder and kidnap. And this is amongst, again, the leaves. The dynamic light is the leaves that are blowing on the trees out here. That's impossible light activity. These are demons, and they're stalking under the fake sun. The entity is gang stalking with RGS, as you saw just the other day. 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and the fake sun is over the same apartment building. You saw RGS also gang stalking while the fake sun is rising on February 28, 2025, over the same exact apartment building. You are keeping the fake sun over the same apartment building at 8:56 in the morning, when RGS is also gang stalking under that fake sun. They're doing so with impunity while they know that they're being documented as well, the same mental illness exhibited by the demon-possessed gang stalkers who are going to prison. It's not sunlight that would create the dynamic engineered light occurring underneath a patio structure where the leaves on the trees are blowing, and you can see that based on the shadow of the leaves appearing on here. That's speaking to the trajectory. That is the focus, the direction of light. That is not sunlight. And it's also not sunlight because you know that it's occurring in the impossible manner, such as underneath the patio structure. You also know that it's sunlight because it's that which is occurring on the inside of the apartment, creating things such as magnified shadows and coexisting with what is amplified noise. That's giving you context regarding the nature of the light, the amplified noise. The stalking by the state is speaking to the nature of the light. What am I getting to? The legal analysis for understanding gang stalking, where the fake sun is sitting over one apartment building all day long, you also know that that's not sunlight. Where the entity is keeping a fake sun over me, as I documented in Los Angeles, and there is an ongoing juxtaposition for the federal court to put everybody gang stalking at Woodside and the company itself in civil and criminal court. Okay, that's what's relevant when you're seeing the leaves on the trees creating what is dynamic engineered light on this patio glass door, which defies nature and science and common sense. Where the demons are intentionally surrounding me with amplified noise, the demons that are residing in this apartment are going to prison. Okay, gang stalking, right in a relevant position. All right, and doing so by virtue of placement in the path. This is not sunlight either. Okay, you can literally see they're two different colors. This is the placement of engineered light for purposes of criminal interference with quiet enjoyment. AVANATH Capital Management, a gang stalking third-party corrupt company, is going to be civilly and criminally prosecuted. Daryl J. Carter has serious problems on his hands. I'm going to civilly and criminally prosecute and every other executive that is a gang stalker in California, where they are headquartered in what is Irvine. I'm going to prosecute them, and I'm going to prosecute all of their demon-possessed gang stalking residents who are all losing their housing under the Violence Against Women Act that they're in violation of at this HUD-regulated property, where criminal surveillance, that is stalking, and federal stalking under Title 18 remains underway. That's not sunlight. That's the same dynamic light. The leaves on the trees are blowing, and it's occurring above my head. It's got, let me put my hand in it so that you can see. There's my hand. This is demonic. And this is where they're stalking me with ongoing amplified noise. This is psychological torture that's in furtherance of murdering someone. This is a program that a government practices when it's conspiring to steal from you, to murder you, to kidnap you, falsely depict you as being mentally ill when you don't have the evidence to prove that a bunch of demons, strangers, are stalking you. This is shade here. So you have what is just inexplicable concentrated light that's creating my shadow, again, above my head. This is the pattern of conduct. And the shadow of the trees appearing on the ceiling, it's not sunlight. It's the shadow of those trees appearing on the inside. That is gymnastic, reaching into a structure above the head. That's not sunlight, nor is that sunlight, nor is this sunlight. This is called stalking with light. All these demons in units 55 through 64 are going to prison. They're all going to prison, federal prison. She's going to a mental asylum. This family's going to a mental asylum. Tracy Banks is inside of her bedroom. She's going to a mental asylum. All right, and this is the entity that conspired to murder and kidnap me, steal my property, and falsely depict my character in doing so. All right, that's called malice. They're going to federal prison, and they're not going to be getting out either. And this is directly speaking to what Paul Leon is practicing as a corrupt mayor, what the population is practicing as a bunch of sex offenders. They're gang stalking by driving. Those are demons that are pacing in traffic. Okay, they're maintaining the elements of monitoring, and they're all engaged in what is a sex offense, monitoring my genitalia with a gang stalking mother, a predator. Okay, inside of the bathroom in this unit where ongoing surveillance is underway, and AVANATH is going to be prosecuted for it. It's currently 3:29 p.m. This is the pattern of conduct. Psychological torture by way of what is criminally interfering with quiet enjoyment. It's going to be a very hefty charge in civil court. It is pursuant to surveillance by a third-party commercial actor that's profiting and is facilitating federal group stalking monitoring, which is occurring in furtherance of murder. And AVANATH Capital Management is going to be punished with devastating damages, draining their pockets as well. It is, again, 3:30 p.m. This is documentation of impunity and malice, where a bunch of sex offenders and a bunch of obsessed psychopaths, because that's what they are. They're demon possessed, and I'm showing you their mental illness, and I'm showing you their obsession with me. While they are simultaneously being exposed and prosecuted, you are also thereby able to see and witness and analyze their mental illness. That's crossing path. Obsessed demons. They're going to prison. All right. The entity is gang stalking still on video. That's accomplished by driving under a fake sun and an engineered light, where you see the light on the ceiling. That's how a population is maintaining elements, and they do the same thing when they know that my genitalia is exposed, and they're all obsessing, going in a frenzy when I'm nude as well. The population of sex offenders are going to be prosecuted. It's the city of Ontario. It's the state of California. This is AVANATH Capital Management under a fake sun at 3:30 p.m. All right, the sex offenders in units 33 through 64 are all going to prison and mental asylums, and they're not getting out. Okay, this is P.O.C. All right, the video that you just listened to is speaking to, which you can view on the YouTube channel, the P.O.C. You can also see it on the P.O.C. website, and the website is thisisthepoc.wordpress.com. It would be under the documentation tab, under look. You go to 2025. All the documentation is captured on an ongoing basis, on a day-by-day basis, as I remain subject to federal group stalking monitoring. This is literally the state government being exposed for engaging in domestic terrorism in concert with the very civilians that occupy the state, the constituents of the state, and it is being simultaneously prosecuted while there is no secret about what it is doing and how it does it. This is speaking to the impunity of the state government that is going to be prosecuted for the unprecedented manners in which they're targeting American citizens, which is what I represent. Well, I am subject to it, but I'm also speaking on behalf of those who did not survive, because they are already deceased, and they are also sitting around currently kidnapped somewhere. And it is a kidnapping where the government is a gang stalker and then exercising authority that it does not in fact have under the existing state and federal constitutions. Those are kidnappings. And this is a whole illusion with regard to how the state of California operates under the law that it has no actual authority under. And where you are illegitimate in one area, it does not make you legitimate in another. So while I am not advocating anarchy, I am speaking to the reality. I'm not going to entertain that the state government has authority, despite the fact that it's actually maintaining a surveillance system that's unconstitutional. The entity has no authority under the Constitution as it currently stands. This is the reality. The entity is exercising authority and abusing its positions in government, and doing so in concert with a population that is full throttle engaged in that satanic method, which is speaking to malice, the malicious ways in which you're targeting American citizens and falsely depicting them as criminals in order to get them into this system where the entity's exercising fictitious authority to falsely depict them as mentally ill in order to get them into the system where you can kidnap them, where the entity is exercising fictitious authority. And this is the reality. Now, what I'm also speaking to is what's going to be the penalties for the entity that is engaged in federal group stalking monitoring. And this is nothing other than a fancy way of stating public corruption in California. Okay, so the entity that's engaging what is terrorizing American citizens, doing so, as you can see, through the ordinary family. This is how I have a gang stalking relative. This is how you have gang stalking neighbors. This is how you have a gang stalking city, a gang stalking local government, which you also know as a gang stalking state, as I have driven throughout and traveled throughout Southern California, and you're looking at the entity stalking with the fake sun en route from and to Las Vegas, Nevada, okay, where there would never be any sun over the Woodside senior apartments, not even just for the duration of the day. This is common sense analysis, and the ignorant terrorists are fully seen, but you need to understand that these ignorant terrorists are violent sex offenders, and they're the ones engaging in what is sex trafficking. They're the ones that are responsible for the crime rates. They're the ones that are responsible for the public corruption that fills the cities. It's by literally encouragement of the corrupt government in California, which the governor, Gavin Newsom, is not ignorant about. This is speaking to and supporting what is the uprooting, the removal of this. He's a blemish. He's literally, he brings shame. Okay. This is somebody that is in position of authority over the state. Okay. The highest executive, if you will, in the state, and is engaging and facilitating and fully operating pursuant to what is an ongoing criminal system of public corruption in California. And that is Gavin Newsom and every gang stalking mayor. Like you're aware of, what is Karen Bass? Karen Bass is not the only demon-possessed corrupt mayor in California. You're looking at Paul Leon, as I'm documenting, an elderly community full of unemployed people who are mentally sick, and their mental illness, what you are aware of through that environment and through their behavior, which is not a mere coincidence amongst the population. These are demon-possessed people, and it is what we would ordinarily refer to as mental illness. When you are analyzing their decision-making skills, how they are deciding what they should do on a moment-by-moment basis, when now it's no longer a secret, and they have sacrificed everything, including their liberty, in continuously stalking what is to them, on the surface, a stranger. Why are you so obsessed with me? Why are you willing to go to prison? That's speaking to somebody that's obsessed, and that illogical and irrational level of obsession with murdering and kidnapping someone with their genitalia on behalf of what is a gang stalking mother who was never going to be me. I'm 20 years younger than you. There's nothing akin. This is somebody that is literally a witch that has gone to the furthest extent with regard to her insecurity, and then wanting to just remove the person by gang stalking them, and wanting to also simultaneously maintain an appearance of innocence and disinterest by gang stalking in your apartment and yawning loudly and cooking a dish. This is a demon that's gang stalking where they live, pathetic, a sex offender, which you know by virtue of that position, despicable, and also a psychopath that has no remorse with targeting any other person. That is the entity that is a threat to themselves and the public. This is a criminal act committed by the government. This is how you have gang stalking at what are not private residential neighborhoods. They are facilitating venues where a fake sun is over the same apartment building. As you can see in the video, you have to look at it and you'll have to see with regard to the leaves on the trees. This is light that is dynamic, and what is making it dynamic? The trajectory of light, the light that is aimed underneath a patio structure in the afternoon hours, where I've already documented the sunrise at this same exact apartment building. And you have what is the leaves on the trees that is creating what is light that is dynamic. The leaves on the trees are in the sky above the building. That is speaking to sunlight that is reaching underneath, and it is aimed in a very specific manner. You will also see the same thing as I open the front door, and the leaves of the trees are creating what is dynamic, engineered light, impossible light activity, what is present for purposes of stalking. And you know who was stalking. It's everyone around you in that environment. And the entity is engaging in that pattern of conduct, speaking to severe mental illness of what you also know are government actors. Okay, California is filled with celebrities. California is filled with politicians. California is filled with families who are of the same condition, and they are gang stalking as a way of life. They also do so while they tend to profit from what is essentially practicing witchcraft, engaging in what is sacrificing the lives of American citizens. Will the demon-possessed seek to derive some sort of benefit? Their mental illness, which is also demonstrated through the outrage that the demon-possessed demonstrate, while the amplified noise, which is occurring again at what is 3:51 p.m. This mentally sick person is sharing mental instability with Tracy Banks, who was stalking on the opposite side of this bedroom wall. It is not distinct. It's not separate. The mentally ill psychopath who's going to a mental ward is inside of this apartment, while the demon-possessed gang stalker directly above is monitoring with them. They're demons alike in the same exact environment. And you're talking about what is the practice of witchcraft. You're talking about what are delusional psychopaths who think if your neighbor are engaged in gang stalking, somehow you're not a part of that crime and you're separate from it. That's the delusion of the mentally ill who are engaged in what is a pattern of murdering people, sex trafficking people, kidnapping people, bearing false witness against people, innocent people whom they are envious of, who they literally want to be, who they wish that they can wear their skin and breathe their breath and literally take over their existence. That's what's pounding on the floor above in Unit 55, and that's what's going to a mental asylum for the rest of her life. She's already over 55. She's already unemployed. Her obsession with me is literally proven through the evidence. She's going straight from the gang stalking venue of Woodside Senior Apartments to a mental ward, and so is her co-defendant Tracy Banks, who is inside of this unit, exhibiting the same level of mental instability, while all of her neighbors are gang stalking with her in concert with her. She is supposed to be the hitman, who's supposed to be so brilliant that she concocted some plan that no one was ever going to understand or be able to prove. This high school graduate, so deceived by Satan, engaging in this criminal conduct with all of her neighbors who continuously speak to Tracy Banks' mental illness. Okay, the malice with which the cold-blooded, bloodthirsty murderer, serial killer, okay, and predator, a career sex offender that has been engaging in the system for so long, and now she is witnessing her public demise while she is continuously targeting her own federal prosecutor, who will not stop. In the same way that she is relentless, I am more relentless in making sure that her severely mentally disturbed state is that which directly informs the way she is treated for the rest of her life, however much longer she has, in the mental asylum, where she will never be released. She's never getting out. The entity is gang stalking with all of the demons in units 33 through 64, and that's exactly what they've been doing the entire time that I've been typing on this device. And it's also what was happening during the course of the video. The amplified booming inside of the apartment, well, it's coexisting with engineered light under the fake sun. They're all going to federal prison for gang stalking, and they're doing so while committing a sex offense. You're monitoring a woman in an apartment. You're also stalking in violation of the Violence Against Women Act. You're also doing it while you are simultaneously being documented for it. So this is a predator, a sex offender, a stalker that is so obsessed, and they refuse to stop. That's going to inform how many years you're going to prison. And there are those that are already facing mental asylums, like the demon in Unit 51, who lives right here and gang stalking on the opposite side of this bedroom wall and is listening to every word of truth that's being spoken against this delusional psychopath whose mental illness and multiple personalities are literally personified to you under the fake sun that remains over her apartment, amongst the engineered light that remains inside of her apartment, amongst the amplified noise that fills her apartment on an ongoing basis, including while in real time I'm speaking to her criminal engagement and what is terrorism against a blood relative. She's never getting out of the mental asylum. She's directly incriminating her gang stalking relatives such as Eric Spencer. This is what was motivating them when they engaged in criminal acts of defamation amongst these gang stalking courts. While you're engaged in psychological torture and then simultaneously seeking to falsely depict the character of another, that's called malice. And they know very well that you're not mentally ill. They're doing so in furtherance of trying to murder and kidnap you. And these particular demons thought that they were going to get away with stealing that which belongs to me, property that belongs to me, property that's been bequeathed to me. Okay, their mental illness is born of demon possession. And while the demon in unit number 55 is exhibiting her mental illness, she is sharing the identical condition of the government that's gang stalking in Ontario. This is what the mayor doesn't want you to know about his mental state. This is a demon-possessed gang stalker who's just in a position of being a public official. He's going to be removed, Paul Leon, okay? It's the same with Tracy Banks that's inside of this unit number 51. While the demon in unit 55 is banging on the floor, the entity does so. This is the character of Satan that is psychotic. And that psychotic character flaw is that which inspires murder and sexual harm and psychological torture that they want to inflict against another. This is nothing that a demon is doing by themselves. This is what a gang of demons do together. And it is what the state of California is practicing. All right. Well, you're listening to the television go in and out. The entity is still monitoring evidence. All the demons in units 33 through 64 are going to prison. Linda Reyes, her mental illness and her obsession with seeking to continuously target, very foolishly, her federal prosecutor. She's going to prison for that. And her mental illness is being continuously exposed, and it's inherent to her prosecution. In the controversy that she is gang stalking me, her mental illness is brought to the forefront of her own federal prosecution while she is acting with impunity, while she is beating on the floors by virtue of audible activity creation, while she's stalking someone in the apartment where she is masquerading as a community manager. All right. She's a gang stalking community manager. That is speaking to, again, the unprecedented basis where the state of California is gang stalking through the population. So nonetheless, I want to be clear while I'm typing out the documentation, this is exactly what the demons were doing, sharing an amplified audible activity while the psychopath inside of Unit 51, that is Tracy Banks, whose mental illness is literally personified. This is a demon that thinks that she's appearing one way and you're not. The reality is that the mental illness is shared by the demons. And while the demons in Unit 55 are beating on the floor, Tracy Banks' mental illness is shown clearly to you. And this is what this psychopath is thinking that you're ignorant about. While the demons are stalking under a fake sun, pacing all outside on the sidewalk, Tracy Banks' mental illness is clearly shown to you. While the demons are gang stalking, by the way, in planes and helicopters, like I've been documenting, Tracy Banks' mental illness is clearly seen and exhibited to you. They are a demon-possessed entity targeting one person together, sharing in the elements of monitoring, identical behavioral pattern, doing so in the specific environment. This is the same criminal presence in that demonic engineered environment for that same engagement in that pattern of conduct. Their mental illness is shared together, and one is speaking to the same condition of the other. You have what are different faces and the same elements of monitoring, sharing in what is the literally the behavior of the degenerate. Okay, the degenerates are stalking one person together, whom they seek to murder and kidnap and falsely depict their character and do. The absurdity of this criminal system is what I also speak to. Want to make sure it is very clear. There is nothing that is, under the circumstances of federal group stalking and monitoring, actually establishing mental illness of the targeted individual. These are demons that are nothing other than bearing false witness in courts who are corrupt. I've shown what California is practicing in its courts, and it's not different in any county that I have not been in. The entity is gang stalking in all of the courts. The entity is engaged in this system of corruption in all of the courts in California, and they are engaged in a pattern of what is falsely depicting the targeted individual's character in order to steal from them that which they want. And there is very ambiguous and unconstitutional laws that exist, for example, under the Welfare and Institutions Code, where they are relying on these intentionally, deliberately crafted laws that they're going to change. These deliberately crafted laws for the system of gang stalking in California. And so all you have is a psychopath that is related to you and will get on the stand while they're simultaneously gang stalking you and using what is a deliberately crafted law that exists on the books for the purposes of this same public entity to steal from you and falsely depict your character in order to kidnap you, and also to claim that it was because of this mental illness that you have under this deliberately crafted legislation in California where they're gang stalking as a way of society. These laws are going to change. This is why they exist, however, and this is exactly what the state of California is engaging in. I want you to hear the audible activity of a psychopath under the fake sun.
He really went all out. For real? You said he was going to flip out too.
Okay, so I just want to be clear. This is happening amongst the engineer light that you will see on the ceiling. This is happening amongst the gang stalking with the Ontario Police Department. This is happening amongst the entity maintaining the specific environment in Los Angeles, where you're understanding what is the demonic environment, and the entity that is desperately and unpersuasively speaking to what is a pattern of conduct by psychopaths who commit murder, who commit rape, who commit kidnapping, who engage in what is lying as a way of life. That's what you're listening to in the background, and doing so while her gang stalking neighbors are engaging in what is creating the elements of monitoring around her while she is stalking in her bed, calling the third party who was going to be prosecuted with her for being engaged in federal stalking on her device. Their identity is not a mystery. The federal government knows exactly what they're doing, and you're witnessing the mental illness of the psychopaths who are gang stalking. And then to the very end, she's going to a mental asylum. No one is questioning. You know exactly what she's doing while you're hearing loud laughter, while she knows exactly everything that I'm stating. This is the demon-possessed character of those who are very severely mentally ill and rely on what is the stage that they stand on. This is somebody that cannot bear their own reflection in the mirror. This mental illness, though, is not something that is creating compassion. It's creating what is a necessary response under federal law, because that is what is murdering people. That is what is stealing the identity of people. That is what is stealing property from other people. And that is what is so superficial. It's still relying on an appearance that they don't even have. No one is looking at this person as normal. No one is looking at this person as doing anything other than stalking me with loud, audible activity in the form of what is laughter, which is what Satan does. That's what Satan resorts to when Satan doesn't have anything to intelligently respond with, by the way. That's what you're listening to in the background. It's the use of a communication device, and it is the response of one that was never in any position to actually contend with me and had to do everything that was committed against me behind my back, because this demon-possessed and inferior demon worker for Satan, worker of iniquity, knows that under under the fake sun and in clear view amongst everyone, all the audience that this demon welcomed, that there is no standing against me at all under any circumstances. And there is no actual and objective surveyor and observer that would ever mistake me for being mentally ill, but you clearly see the mental illness of the demons, including this demon inside of this apartment, who had to necessarily target me in secret, had to do it behind my back, had to do it on paper with the complicit conduct of a corrupt government. It had to happen that way, because there's no way that you would in my face, where this demon is listening to the literally the systematic breakdown of everything that this demon practices on a day-to-day basis. I'm providing you a tutorial for the way that the demon possessed operate, their character flaws, their defeated mindsets, the way that they want you to think and what they are focusing on, which is how you feel, how you react. This is, again, the entity that had necessarily had to target me from behind my back, because aware of the fact, and very fearful also of the fact that once I am aware of it, there is no future. It's an automatic failure. And this is a weak person, in other words. That's what I'm speaking to, that has to rely on what you don't even have. You look like a psychopath. You look like the same rapist. You look like a kidnapper. You look like a sex offender and a stalker. While you're laughing loudly on your phone, because you don't know what else to do. You don't know what else. And you know what the federal government is looking at? Stalking in your apartment, activity creation under the fake sun and engineered light. You are never deviating from recognizing the analysis of federal group stalking and monitoring. Satan is also always counting on you to be distracted. You're never distracted. You just heard the laughter of a psychopath. Okay? And it's literally doesn't have a friend, doesn't love anyone, doesn't even love herself, because she's calling other people who are going to be federally prosecuted with her. Okay? It is currently, that's the pathetic posture of the demon possessed who are worshiping my genitalia. Okay, I'm doing so day and night, dreaming about me, using witchcraft, wanting to be me, hoping that I don't love myself. That has never been the case. Hoping that I settle like they have in life. And it's pathetic. It's very sad. And it is a cry for help. As loud as you hear that laughter, that's the cry for help. This is the same apartment where you see the fake sun rising and setting. That loud laughter is a cry for help. This is the same setting where the government is gang stalking over a senior citizen complex all hours of the day. Very uncharacteristic, which is speaking to the P.O.C. This is a cry for help. This loud laughter, this is a cry for help. Where you're looking at the engineer light inside of her apartment, ricocheting, fanning across her cabinets, the supernatural, while this is a witch that relies on magic, witchcraft, voodoo, sex rituals, and whatnot. This loud laughter is a cry for help. Somebody that wants to distract away from Satan is always trying to distract you. You will never be distracted. You listen very clearly and you pay attention, which is also what scripture tells you, to walk circumspectly. Okay, paying attention to the times. Satan, what I'm pointing out to you, is not even clever. He's not even clever. He's just relying on you to be an outright ignoramus. Now, I have more confidence in those of you. You're not that ignorant. Satan is relying on you to be just an outright ignoramus, like an idiot. That's what is required in order for you to fall for the wiles of the devil. It's literally required for you to be that ignorant. And there are those of you that are better than that are listening to the sound of my voice. And that's what's so pathetic. Okay, it's so pathetic, but it's also very threatening, because there are plenty of people who have lost their lives to this. And it's the only reason why. It's not because it's elite. It's not because it's It's not because it's super intricate or intelligent or the product of something that's very wise. No, they're nothing other than treacherous, desperate criminals who will murder, who will kidnap, who will go to any resort, including the superficial guise of just acting like I don't care. If I act like I don't care, then I'm innocent. That is the simple mindset of the demon possessed. It's very pathetic. And this is an advanced age person. Okay, you're in your 60s. This is what you're doing with your life. This is very sad. It's very sad. And it is a tragic public meltdown. Okay, the entity is engaging in this pattern of conduct and has also influenced and brought on. People are not innocent, especially those that have made decisions about the things that they've done in their life. Everybody that's gang stalking with this third party who you hear loudly laughing on the phone, which you know is audible activity. Nobody that is witnessing anything about what I've been documenting, exposing about the state, you already know everything that's happening is serving for monitoring. And so you have a psychopath, a delusional psychopath that resorts to, I'm going to laugh. This is what this demon's loud laughter speaks to. Oh, don't listen to me. Don't listen to the federal prosecutor because they're laughing. This is their reasoning. There's no reasoning. This is, again, idiotic tactics of somebody that can under no circumstances could ever stand in my face and do what they've done. They had to do it behind my back, which is speaking to a coward. It's speaking to a liar. It's speaking to a demon. When I am openly addressing what is on its face obvious, all I'm doing is pointing out details to you, but you can see it. I don't use magic. I don't serve Satan. I don't make up stories. Okay, so you can very clearly see what it is that I've shown. And that laughter is called audible activity creation of somebody that's focused on me, not a phone conversation. And you also know that because the fake sun is over her apartment still. The supernatural is occurring inside of her apartment. This is a witch. This is a servant of Satan. This is a demon-possessed person whose mental illness is clearly shown while her neighbors are throwing their bodies around in units 33 through 64, criminally interfering with quiet enjoyment, the prosecution of a corrupt gang stalking company. That's what joining hands with this third party is getting, the demise of an entity. Because Satan never wins. Okay, it is currently 4:08 p.m. This is impunity and malice that's being documented. The entity engaged in amplified booming while I was not texting, but in text documenting in the document entitled WSA-the People. That's monitoring evidence. That's speaking to impunity and malice. That's speaking to obstruction of justice. That's speaking to, again, delusional psychopaths who are going to prison and asylums. And on this side of that prosecution, you are depicting yourself, and I'm documenting it for that judge. You don't care. You continuously act in furtherance of murder and kidnapping someone while it's being documented in real time. And in federal court, you're going to keep that same energy. You're going to be tailored to, inextricably linked to that evidence that's already on the record. It's not going to change when you're sitting in there and you're listening to sentencing. It's not going to change. That laughter is going to inform your program in the mental asylum that you're never getting out of. And I guarantee you, none of your gang stalking buddies are going to come visit you. They're going to have their own issues in federal court, by the way. It is currently 4:09 p.m. This is P.O.C. at Woodside Senior Apartments. You're going to pay attention to what I've been documenting at Alvarado Gardens in Los Angeles, which is only one manner in recognizing the specific environment where a state is practicing a targeting system. And it is accomplished through what is, again, deliberately crafted laws that are unconstitutional on their face, and they do not establish mental illness. And you are also aware that because of the way that the government is engaged in targeting one, that does not create mental illness when you're psychologically torturing somebody and then manufacturing information in order for it will fit the legislation whereby you are diagnosing someone under law with mental illness. This is how the state of California is abusing laws that are sitting on the book that it, by the way, doesn't have authority under while it's a bunch of gang stalking demons. The police, the sheriff's department, the mental health professionals, the government itself. But this is speaking to laws that necessarily change, and it does not. I don't have to be some formally trained medical professional in order to show you I am subject to the system, and I also understand the way that the law works, and I also understand common sense. You are engaged in psychological torture. You're both making up information, and also while you're psychologically torturing someone, then you're using that after you're targeting them as your material to diagnose someone. That's not mental illness. And it's also so vague whereby if you're not able to, and I'm referencing terms such as gravely disabled under the Welfare and Institutions Code. You can reference 5200 under the Welfare and Institutions Code. This is what California is relying on when they're engaging in what is kidnapping with the same entity in order to steal your property, claiming you shouldn't be able to exercise your real property. You're under, you shouldn't be able to exercise control over your money, where they are under any sort of these deliberately crafted laws where a government is acting with a demon-possessed entity, a malicious entity that knows very well that you are not mentally ill. And even if you suffer from some sort of, this is why they depict things such as alcoholism as a disease. It's not, it's sin. It's just sin. It's sin. It is born of your sinful condition. All right, but there's a reason why they do these things. It's deliberately crafted under laws where you can be targeted and you can lose your property. You can lose that which belongs to you when they will, well, that on top of not only are they psychologically torturing you, but you also happen to be one that is given over to debauchery. Okay. Say you are an alcoholic, or you may even have a drug issue. And I'm not saying that these are not issues that don't need to be dealt with. I'm stating that the entity abuses and deliberately crafts laws in order to steal property from you, where they're targeting you at the same time. These are things that need to change. It is so ambiguous and it is unconstitutional. Therefore, it's also used by a corrupt entity, the state of California, to steal in real time, while, by the way, their mental illness is undiagnosed. But it is through the very evidence of the P.O.C. speaking to those who know very well there is no mental illness. They're targeting you. This is also the same documentation that's going to serve for changing the laws, where the state of California, through a mentally ill population, is targeting American citizens in order to steal from them. Where mentally sick people, like the defendants at Woodside Senior Apartments, who are stalking with amplified noise in Unit 55, speaking to the mentally ill inside of this unit who are going to a mental asylum at 4:12 p.m., while I'm speaking the truth about what they do, and while the government is doing it under deliberately crafted laws in order to get away with this very criminal system that needs to change. It's affecting not just me in California, okay, but it's not just affecting me. It's speaking to those, even if you don't know Christ, even if you're currently a gang stalker, even if you think on one day you're a part of the team, the next day you're going to find yourself being targeted. You're going to find yourself on the opposite side of that equation. So I just want to be clear. This is something that needs to change regardless of my position speaking to justice. These are laws that need to change. I'm showing you how these deliberately crafted laws, they're unconstitutional, and they are the entity is manipulating the position of the targeted individual in order to fit the framework. But I've even shown it doesn't even fit the framework. They're engaged in a program of psychological torture and gang stalking, and then trying to fit that underneath what is going to be qualified under existing laws. And they do that deliberately. This is how you have a gang stalker at Woodside Senior Apartments targeting me. And then in the courts, it's already criminal conduct that's already been committed. They're all going to prison, everybody that had anything to do with it. But this is how they're doing that. And that's what their focus is, trying to depict you as one way in order to qualify you under existing and deliberately crafted laws, where this corrupt entity has a system of targeting and stealing from people, seeking to derive a benefit. This is what Satan is doing, by the way. Okay, I just want to be clear. 4:12 p.m. amplified noise. The demon's mental illness is exhibited inside of this apartment. The same one you hear loudly laughing. Her mental illness is also exhibited while the demon in 55, who you cannot hear walking. It's not going to cause crackling to the ceiling. It's not going to be louder than the television. It's not going to compete with my voice. It's not going to coexist with what is a natural environment where the sun sits over the apartment building all day long. The same demon's mental illness is exhibited while the demon in 55, who was already going to a mental asylum, she's more obsessed with me than she is with her own future. Mental illness, actually. Not mental illness crafted under deliberately created laws, where California is engaged in the program, in the practicing of a corrupt society of stealing and defaming and kidnapping and murdering American citizens. And there are laws, such as the Welfare and Institutions Code, that shall change. Okay, it is currently 4:14 p.m. The ongoing amplified noise is occurring under the idle fake sun. They're all going to prison in units 33 through 64 and mental asylums. And they are doing so, again, their mental illness is that which is a threat to the public. Okay, their predatory conduct with regard to salivating over my genitalia, it is to the degree that it's mentally disturbing. These are, again, predators that are engaging in criminal conduct on behalf of a government that is surrounded with evidence, speaking to what it's doing while I have this specific environment surrounding me in Los Angeles. Okay, that's what's pacing in an apartment directly over my head, amongst impossible light that's appearing on the ceiling, that's appearing on the patio glass door, while a loud demon that is irreverent with regard to her demon possession and being outed as such is laughing loudly, gang stalking with all her demon possessed neighbors. They're all going to mental asylums and prison. Okay, this is a citywide effort. Paul Leon is being removed from office. The police department is being disbanded. All these kidnappers are going to prison, as I continuously publish online what it is that another kidnapping that this same entity committed In doing so, trying to pigeonhole an American citizen who suffers no mental illness whatsoever, but doing so under, again, laws that are unconstitutional, while the government that can target someone and that they are kidnapping by doing so. They are criminally defaming by doing so in the corrupt courts, where you are able to target an American citizen and place them in the same predicament under existing laws that have been crafted for that criminal purpose. That's not diagnosing a mental illness. That's not a diagnosis. That's speaking to all the ways and the depths of public corruption. And it is reaching all the way to a bunch of elderly people who are sitting around engaging in sexual violence and stalking all day long as a way of life, while they collect money from the government in doing so. Okay, there are a plethora of laws that are going to change in California based on what's being exposed. And it is speaking to, again, the elderly in the state of California that are not less threatening. They're more threatening. That's speaking to what are decades and decades and decades of practice in wickedness and sexual perversion. All right. And what is corruption with a corrupt state in California, or wherever else they live, because this demon didn't only live in California. She's been in California engaging in terrorism the longest, however. Okay. The entity is doing so with impunity. It's 4:17 p.m. The entity is doing so with regard to pay attention to what I'm continuously documenting in an entirely different region. Not only on this day, but this time of year. I'm already documenting the sunrise and the sunset in Los Angeles over me in the same manner, the pattern of conduct. And then you're looking at what is also relevant to the pattern of conduct that I've been subject to. This entity sought to falsely depict my character secretly behind my back, okay, for years with this same entity, and doing so through what are the methods that I'm speaking to, advocating that must change. And these are deliberately crafted laws, legislation that is created, not ignorantly, not coincidentally. This is a whole rollout in California to maintain this corrupt system, to steal from American citizens, falsely depicting them in order to steal what belongs to you, in order to keep you kidnapped, or even you may even agree because you don't understand what it is that you're being targeted by. Alcoholism is a sin issue. And where you give your life over to Christ, you are not going to be one that is suffering from that condition. It's a sin issue. Like Satan wants to curse you with thinking, oh, you've got a mental illness, you're sick, it's a disease. It's a sin issue. You can get to the disease issue with regard to sin being a disease that we're all afflicted with, but you don't have to live in that. There's a reason why they use the terms that they do. There's a reason why it has the particular framework that it has, especially in California, where they're targeting American citizens in order to place you under a specific category, under its corrupt laws that are designed to kidnap and steal from American citizens, and their mental illness is put on full display while they do so. These are the demons that are going to mental asylums. This is the irony with regarding to targeting targeting someone like myself, whose position is not because this demon did so, and these demons are doing so not because it's successful. It's because it's my job to let you know what's going on, and it's the federal government's job to respond. It's the federal government's job to respond. All right. It is currently 4:19 p.m. This is P.O.C. All right, you will see in the images captured inside of the unit, you will see, first of all, my shadow. As I point up to take a picture of the light activity, you can see my shadow as I hold my phone up on the living room wall. That's impossible light activity. And it's also speaking to the trajectory of light and sunlight. That's the product of the sun that's outside of the home. That's above, again, because the sun is not sitting on the sidewalk. The sun is not sitting on top of a tree. The sun is not sitting on the roof. The sun is not adjacent to Tracy Banks's bedroom window. The sun is not underneath her covered patio. The sunlight is also not reaching underneath the patio structure, illuminating, which you will see the patio blinds, the blind slats. There's an extraordinarily bright spot there. That's illumination of engineered light. It's very demonic. This is where you're hearing a demon laughing loudly. That's monitoring, and that's a psychopath. That's a cackling psychopath. That's very severe mental illness. Okay, as you are able to, I'm describing the behavior you are witnessing, and I'm letting you know what's wrong with them mentally. And you also know it because they're gang stalking. No sane person, no normal person, no healthy person is gang stalking or would continue gang stalking when you are exposed for it. So you have more than enough time to demonstrate, okay, I've realized I've wrong. You're talking about what is their minds are gone with regard to mental health. These are mentally sick people, and the impossible light activity is directly proving that as well. It's the personification of the mental illness of those who are stalking, also stalking by residents. So nonetheless, you'll see the engineer light. It's illuminating the patio glass door. Remember, the patio glass door is covered with there's a whole covering. So there's no sunlight that's going to occur where shade is the product, and that's why it's built there. You're also looking mindful. I'm showing you the same engineer light underneath the same patio at 8 o'clock, 7 o'clock in the morning. None of this is sunlight. And then also you're aware of the fact Unity has a fake sun over me in Los Angeles, as I'm documenting in January, February, March of 2024. So this is not sunlight. It's also not sunlight that's going to illuminate on the inside of the apartment, creating my shadow on the living room wall. That's for purposes of a sex offense, which the company itself, AVANATH, is going to be prosecuted for. It's another means of sexual violence. The demons that are stalking you are always obsessed with trying to touch you with this engineered light that is not even naturally occurring, and that's an unlawful touching also by all the stalkers that are by residents so obsessed with you. They want to hide amongst you by living next to you. This is what the government is doing while wanting to falsely depict your character, while their mental illness is ironically put on display. The demons are hiding their mental illness through their positions as judges and attorneys. They're hiding their mental illness through positions as being your relatives. They're supposed to be, again, Tracy Banks is supposed to have a clever disguise, but this demon's mask has been ripped off, so you are able to see what is a cackling demon amongst engineer light under a fake sun that sits over her apartment all day long. She's stalking her own daughter in her apartment. Very, very despicable, disturbing, and also very demonic, very psychotic. Okay, and why? Because this person wants to murder another person, and they're laughing as a very unpersuasive disguise for wanting to appear to you, and they don't appear that way. But again, wanting to appear to you as so the people who are listening, as being disinterested, ignorant, nonchalant, carefree. This is a psychopath and a delusional one. And I'm capturing the environment that's going to put a cackling demon in a mental asylum. You can laugh, you can be serious, you can ignore it, you can address me. I'm going to prosecute you for whatever it is that you do, because it's the state government that's monitoring and has no warrant or probable cause to engage in it, and the specific environment is direct evidence of it. This is where the government is stalking itself directly, and this is where the government is stalking on a 24-hour ceaseless basis through the population of who are demons. Because you can be living at the specific environment like myself and not be monitoring, not be demon possessed. This is not the case, though. I'm the one that's being targeted. That's why the fake sun is over me. That's why the demons are acting pursuant to what they know I'm doing on my device. That's called simultaneity of activity creation. They're doing so amongst a light that is irreconcilable with science. You can't scientifically reconcile what the entity is doing in this environment, nor can you with regard to the idle presence of the sun. You have the sun over the same family of demons who are going to a mental assignment, Unit 41. They're pacing on the sidewalk. They foolishly provided that evidence days ago. And you're talking about days later, it's 4:35 p.m. and it's the same apartment building where they provided evidence. They're the ones that gave me that evidence. Their own impunity and obsession and mental illness is going to put them in asylums. That same apartment building days later is over the same apartment. That's not the cause of light that's illuminating the patio glass door, creating my shadow on the inside of the apartment. Where you're necessarily speaking to, well, if it's the entity, you're going to prosecute them for the acid entity with which they're stalking you in a whole demonic circus-like environment, which is terrorism to the ordinary target individual. The circus that they're stalking you in, that's terrorism and psychological torture. It's sick while they're stalking you. This is not, none of this is naturally occurring. They're a bunch of demons, and they're all stalking you in a demonic environment. And they're also stalking you with regard to now they're simultaneously being exposed, documented, reported, prosecuted. And the sex offender continues. The stalker persists. Oh, you're never getting out of prison. And you're doing it, why? Because you want to murder someone? You're not getting out of prison. You're not. Okay? And it's the same with the entity that's a documented kidnapper that's engaged in what is malicious defamation. That's criminal defamation. All right? This is not tortious defamation. This is defamation that's serving a criminal objective by the state. Criminal defamation is that which shall be recognized by federal law. It's serving a criminal pattern of conduct by the government that acts via the population. The population's not exercising any First Amendment constitutional rights. These are not private citizens. They're the state. It's criminal defamation by the entity. And they're doing so with regard to a criminal objective to murder and kidnap. And what I've shown the criminal purpose. The entity wants to steal property, but the entity is gang stalking me in furtherance of murdering me. And they're doing it in that specific environment. So you will see the images of my shadow on the living room wall. This is where the entity has the fake sun that's sitting over the same apartment building, and that's supposed to be, it's not, but the evidence of the fake sun and the evidence of the engineered light is the direct evidence, not circumstantial, the direct evidence of gang stalking that's happening at an apartment complex, which is relevant. This is speaking to prosecution for a sex offense. It is with regard to the nature of the crime. It's a sex offense while I'm being molested with engineered light standing outside on the sidewalk. It's also a sex offense while I'm being kept under surveillance inside of an apartment complex and being molested with engineered light. Those are two distinct bases of recognizing the perpetual sex offense. All right. The entity is molesting the person with engineered light in order while you're stalking and keeping somebody under surveillance. It's an unlawful touching. It's a sex offense while I'm standing on the sidewalk outside, which the entity wants to maintain under the Constitution that it has no authority or rights under as public property. And the entity that's keeping you under surveillance doesn't have a right to be on that sidewalk next to you or anywhere around that sidewalk. That's how they're stalking you on behalf of the government that has no warrant and probable cause to be on that sidewalk, keeping you under surveillance, stalking you. Not different from any other stalker. In fact, it's more threatening because it's the government that's stalking you and is doing so through a whole population. A demon-possessed entity, directly and vicariously stalking. And the specific environment is directly speaking to that. And so that's what you'll see the images of. And then you're going to play the tape back and listen to the demon laughing, cackling in the background on the phone with the demon who knows that they're monitoring me as well. She's not calling people that are ignorant about what they're participating in. These are psychopaths whose mental illness has taken over the normal reasoning, the proper reasoning of somebody that is anticipating being in federal court and having to give an explanation, which you're not going to be able to explain because it's going to go something like this. Is your name John Doe, sir? Yes or no? Were you on the phone, which you're not being asked any questions that the answer is not already known. Were you on the communication device with the defendant at this time on this date? Because that's the crime in and of itself. It's criminal surveillance. It's federal stalking. And, we were talking about the funeral and she had to give, nobody cares. It's audible activity. It's criminal facilitation. They don't understand and they don't have to understand because these are the mentally ill who have been murdering and kidnapping and lying in courts and stealing for far too long and still thinking when they have been the inferior. From the beginning, they've been the inferior opponent. You're not a formidable adversary when you rely on a bunch of gang members to target one person. It's pathetic. Okay, but this pathetic gang, they engage in high crimes. They engage in murder that is organized by the state. Okay, they have the mandate of the government helping them get away with it. The government sharing in those benefits as well. Okay, so these are pathetic state actors, but they are engaging in very high crimes. The government helps a bunch of idiots get away with murder. The government helps a bunch of idiots get away with criminal conduct conspicuously right in the face. And where you are enforcing your rights ordinarily, it's supposed to result in obstructing justice such that it's silencing you. Everybody that engages in that pattern of conduct is going to suffer even more federal penalties because that's how that system operates. And while they do so as a population, it's pointing directly to that corrupt government. And there is no ambiguity. There is no vagueness with regard to who is gang stalking amongst the government in Ontario, California, and in the state of California. While I am at a senior citizen complex where a bunch of unemployed stalkers who are demon possessed and whose mental illness is going to be at the forefront of their prosecutions, where they are doing so on behalf of the state under a fake sun amongst engineered light that's creating my shadow on the living room wall inside of this unit 51, where you've already seen the sunrise and the sunset. And neither of that is speaking to a natural environment where it would create any sunlight on the patio glass door. It would create the shadow of the trees on that patio glass door. That it would create any sunlight through the peephole onto the kitchen wall. That it would create any sunlight that would fan across the kitchen cabinets. That would span across the ceiling. That would span across the living room floor. That would sit stationary in different colors on the east living room wall adjacent to the door. That would appear above the living room, on the ceiling, above the front door as I open it. This is speaking to the environment where surveillance is underway. And the government is being prosecuted for it. And the government's disdain for the Constitution is no longer a secret. while it's being prosecuted for federal group stalking and monitoring. The government's disdain for actual law and order, as opposed to a corrupt system where it wants to appear upright and noble, and one that should be given honor for serving the positions as public officials that they maintain. That's what they want to look like to you on the surface, where they're actually ignoble and despicable and disgusting and perverted and highly criminal and corrupt practices as a government body, as a society in California, is what is being unmasked. And it's vile. It's disgusting. Okay, so you are aware of all of that while I'm capturing my shadow appearing on the living room wall, the east living room wall, while at the same time there's a whole sun over my head while LAPD is stalking in Los Angeles at Alvarado Gardens, located at 1800 to 1818 North Alvarado Street, Los Angeles, California, 90026. Also relevant context, the mentally ill don't know what to do other than what they've been doing. Gang stalking, and now it's gang stalking with ongoing added and enhanced consequences, because I am in the process of publishing evidence about their kidnapping that was committed in June of 2022. And while I am in that, the demons are again engaged in federal stalking, so aware of what I'm doing on my devices when you have no right to be doing that, but you're admittedly doing that while you're engaging in what is criminal acts of obstruction of justice, like I'm documenting under the fake sun, monitoring in the bathroom, while you're, again, admitting to be a sex offender, engaging in the elements of monitoring, while I am also on my devices in the process of publishing the ongoing added kidnapping, which is speaking to people who are going to prison. They're not getting out. You're not getting out. You're not getting out of prison. But like I said, the entity from the beginning to the end has brought on its own demise. Okay, so there's the part where I have exposed the impossible. And in other words, no person was ever supposed to be able to prove it. And no person was ever supposed to be able to speak to it in a way that you could understand and that you would actually like, that it would be believable, palatable. I put it, not only am I speaking to what the demon possessed are doing, which is criminal, I put it in a palatable fashion so that you can even understand it and even explain it to another person. Because that's how important it is that Christ Jesus wants you to know what Satan is doing. So I'm literally breaking it down for you because you need to know. You need to know. But you're witnessing me prosecute Satan in court. You're witnessing me call out Satan's minions by name and position, and call out every crime that they've committed, and create laws where they don't exist because Satan has never been outed to this degree before. That's what you're witnessing. And while I do so, the demon possessed are speaking to, again, the ways in which they shall be treated for their mental illness, which is no longer closeted. And it is personified through the maintenance of the fake sun, the engineer light as it changes as I speak, the audible activity that occurs and it becomes louder, for example, the more that I speak. And demons are nothing other than infuriated. Demons are speaking to defendants. They're defendants. All right. They are in high positions as well, and they're going to be removed from those positions. And there will be no question about who they are and what they did and what part they played knowingly and maliciously. OK, and whether they want to admit it or not, you are at the very least, which is horrible enough, being derelict. That is an atrocious enough offense. It is an offense. All right, when this system is underway, but none of them are derelict. This is corruption that's being exposed that can no longer be denied. Okay, nor can it actually be refuted. All right, it is currently 4:45 p.m. This is what's going to be published in what not only images but also video evidence that I documented. And then again, when you are aware of it, this has always been the purpose, not only that you see, but I want you to very fully understand and see. So listen to the tape again when you're looking at the environment that is, again, gang stalking, the identity of those who are gang stalking me, and then observe their behavior. And then go back and review the things that have been stated out of their mouths, out of their faces, in concert with other people that help them. Whether those people have now switched sides at this point, which does not make any hero. You're not a hero because you switched sides when you saw ahead of time that this probably isn't going to go the way in which you thought it was going to go at the beginning, when you were enthusiastically helping this hitman, gang stalking with these demons. And because you've switched sides, by the way, whoever it is that I'm speaking to, that doesn't mean that you don't still serve Satan. It doesn't mean that you are not still demon possessed. I just want to be clear, and that does not make you a hero. And it also doesn't make us colleagues. We're not on the same team. In the same way that I was sleeping on the sidewalk by myself, you were not sleeping on the sidewalk with me. In the same way that I was kidnapped inside of these facilities. In fact, you were engaging in sex rituals. You were hailing Satan together. You were profiting off of my demise together. Okay, so we're not colleagues at this point. However it is that justice comes to pass, which I stated when I was documenting and enforcing my rights by myself, that remains the case. No one but Christ Jesus, no one can take the glory for that. No one, absolutely no one. And I want to be clear, in the same way that they weren't helping then because you're switching sides and aiding in what you don't have a choice to do. Because if it wasn't you, you would be suffering the consequences, suffering judgment yourself, and you would be getting out of the way. The Lord has said what he's going to do, and it's going to come to pass. And no person is going to be accountable for what the Lord God said he was going to do years ago, which came out of my mouth. I've always stated that this is going to be the case. The inevitable demise of the demons who were targeting me. And I said I'm going to prosecute them, and I'm going to identify them openly. They're going to be openly shamed. And that includes those that at the last minute want to switch sides. You're not a hero, and you're not a colleague. You're not a partner of mine. And I want to repeat, you will not find yourself on my standing beside me as some partner and some friend of mine. It's not happening that way. This has nothing to do with forgiveness. Sure, you're forgiven. It has nothing to do with that. It is absurd. There are people that are perverted in their minds. That's some sort of incestuous result, like being in my personal life or being romantically involved with me or being my friend after you tried to literally make an attempt on my life. You tried to steal property that belongs to me. Whether you want to claim you didn't know that you were engaging in a sex ritual when you were having sex with my mother. Nobody cares about that rationalization. It's disgusting. It's disgusting. And you yourself need to seek mental help. Anyone that's of that position and you know who you are deluded. You're deluded while you are witnessing the exposure that Christ Jesus alone has brought about. Justice that he alone is bringing about, regardless of who he uses to do so. Okay, I just want to make sure that this is abundantly clear. It's 4:49 p.m. where the entity is keeping the fake sun over me, which you are able to see. I am capturing on the YouTube channel on a daily basis. The documentation is already published online. The entity has the fake sun reflecting off of windows at Alvarado Gardens. It's so low that it's reflecting off of my bedroom window on the apartment building at 1806 in Los Angeles, California. But at the same time, it's showing my shadow is appearing on the inside of Tracy Banks's apartment, and that's supposed to be sunlight. None of that is sunlight, nor is that the sun, nor could that be mutually the case. This is the asininity of the inherently inferior demon-possessed entity that was going to and was predestined to fail from the beginning. From the beginning. All right. Now, I encourage, it is the Lord's will that all those who are in darkness, you give your life over to Christ. But that doesn't mean that you're going to have some sort of future with me. It's the only future there is witnessing the exposure, the prosecution of the state. As you come to your senses, perhaps you no longer want to be one that's going to spend the rest of your life in prison for aiding a witch that conspired a grand murder with the government, seeking to falsely depict me as one thing when her mental illness is put on full display like a neon blinking freeway sign. Okay, perhaps that may be the case, but this is not making any sort of camaraderie or teamwork. You only have to, like I said before, you only have to try to kill me one time. You only have to try to steal from me one time. And I'm covering on more than one basis. The Lord Jesus allowed this, and so that in going forward in my life, none of you, and there is no exception, none of you shall have any parts in my future, period. God bless you. Okay, so you're talking about those that are delusional, thinking that it's going to be anyway. You're talking about those who are false prophets, who are speaking on behalf of Satan, that call themselves prophesying that this is going to be the case. And you're talking about those who are woefully deceived by the enemy, being told by any witch or demon that that was going to be the case, that that was going to be what you were going to reap, and doing the things that you know that you committed. So disgusting, so vile, so perverted. Nobody else needs it. You and your conscience in Christ Jesus know exactly what you did, and it's never going to turn into some sort of promising romantic friendship relation. It's never going to happen. Never. It's currently 4:51 p.m. I just want to make sure that that's clear as well. This is P.O.C. Woodside Senior Apartments, where the fake sun is remaining outside of what is the apartment. It's not the cause of what is the engineer light that's inside of the apartment, however, and it's also not the cause of what is engineer light that's coating the patio glass door. And doing so while a population is being outed at the same time. The entire city of Ontario is being prosecuted for federal group stalking and monitoring, and the corrupt government body is simultaneously being exposed while federal group stalking and monitoring is underway at a senior citizen complex. Very, very, very pathetic with regard to unmasking the P.O.C. It is, again, 4:52 p.m., and this is indeed P.O.C. All right, the pathetic and the fearful. 4:53 p.m. was simultaneous to turning my Wi-Fi on. I want to be clear, it's criminal conduct, it's psychological torture. It's actually desperate as well because more evidence is created about what they're doing in real time while they will be sentenced to years in asylums and prisons. However, it's born of fear. The amplified booming that's occurring as I touch my phone screen and turn on the Wi-Fi is again also a distraction tactic by a bunch of fearful demons while I publish the evidence of everything that I just documented. So I'm going to go ahead and maintain a list because this is the same predictable pattern of conduct that the demons practice. While engineer light is glowing, turning on and off like a light switch, under what is an idle fake sun, and engineer light. AVANATH Capital Management, Daryl J. Carter, is going to have problems in civil and criminal court. Okay? They're going to be prosecuted for criminal interference with the intent to obstruct justice and maintaining an unabated program of psychological torture, which you cannot quantify. So the damages are designed. It is justice when the damages are so tremendous that your company can't survive anymore. Neither should you, because you don't have a constitutional right in this country to maintain a company that is maliciously the guise where murder and kidnapping is facilitated by the state, which is what AVANATH Capital Management is engaging in. But nonetheless, the demons in units 33 through 64 who don't mind going to prison and asylums. That's how important I am to these old people who also worship my genitalia. These old aged predators are all going to prison. In the entire venue, 144 units are being prosecuted. None of them are remaining in their apartments because they won't be able to pay their rent because there will be no HUD housing benefits. They're stalking under the Violence Against Women Act. They're engaged in technical abuse, and they're doing so with impunity because of simultaneous prosecution, which they are paying all attention to, meaning they're monitoring the evidence in real time. They're going to be prosecuted under that. So I want to be clear, it's 4:54 p.m. The engineer light is glowing, turning on and off like slow motion hazards, while the engineer light that's occurring inside of the cackling demon's apartment, Tracy Banks. Okay? That's impossible light activity while the evidence is being documented in real time, and turning on the Wi-Fi and amplifying booming noises. Those are the demons that are both pathetic, showing what they're doing, and also they're also very scared. This is fear, actually. And this is speaking to mental illness, because those that are of this condition, they will engage in what are harming more people as opposed to ceasing from engaging in that which they have been trying to get away with. They will, the mindset of the demon possessed, which poses a national security threat, they tend to engage in more of it. So picture that while you're flying a commercial plane. Picture that while you're bearing weapons as gang stalking police officers. Picture that while you're strapping bombs to yourself and running into buildings, large buildings, offices. Picture that while you're driving a large truck or driving a vehicle on the freeway trying to hurt as many people. That's the mindset of the demons, okay? It is pathetic and fearful. It's 4:52 p.m. where that's ongoing. I'm going to go ahead and maintain a list because this is all the demons are doing. This is the same P.O.C., which again, AVANATH Capital Management is going to be prosecuted for, and its employees are going to prison. Linda Reyes is indeed going to prison, and all of the other gang stalking employees who are very heavily documented, engaging in the same pattern, they're all going to prison as well. I will go ahead and add the details regarding what the demons are doing while I now go about publishing the evidence that it provided to me. Okay? P.O.C. it's 4:56 p.m. This is the dimming down of the engineer light. See how it gets darker? All right, and it's been getting brighter. You'll see the image that I just took a moment ago at 4:58 p.m. It's currently 5 p.m. There you go. This is engineer lights getting brighter and dimmer in real time. This is, again, engineer light. You could see the glowing aspect. That's dynamic light. under what is the furniture is on the opposite side of the patio. You can see it's appearing downward, closer to the ground, where the shadow is typically appearing on all sides. You could see the shadow of the same furniture that doesn't move. I showed you on this side, and I've showed you where the shadow of the patio furniture that's on the opposite side. That's speaking to the trajectory of light shooting forward, not sunlight, and it's also downward. And then you have stalking inside of the unit, in sync with the demon in 55. Again, while impulsive light activity is occurring, this is impunity. This is the cackling demon that uses the device to monitor with the people of the state in violation of Title 18. This is mental illness that's being exhibited while the demons are then acting with the state of California under deliberately crafted laws that are designed to falsely depict by targeting you and then trying to depict you as being one having the status under, such as, for example, the Welfare and Institutions Code. This is where an entity that is gang stalking is targeting in order to fit that qualification, but it actually doesn't even fit that qualification because the entity is not only doing that, they're manufacturing the information while they're gang stalking, by the way. So you're mindful of the fact that it's 5 p.m. The entity has the fake sun over me at 5:01 p.m. At Alvarado Gardens, and that which is outside of my office at 5:01 p.m. is not outside of her patio glass door, where she turns on the faucet at the same time that I show you and open the blinds. That's called stalking with activity. That's a demon. All right. Also is engaged in worshiping my genitalia with the same entity that's aware of everything that's happening in the bathroom. That's a massive and egregious sex offense committed by an entity under a fake sun. This is the same fake sun that RGS is going to be prosecuted for gang stalking under, because you have what is hours earlier at 7:26 in the morning, daylight savings time or not, idle presence of a fake sun. All right, this is the patio furniture that you're seeing, the shadow of it. You see how tall it is, but the shadow of it is appearing down here. That's called stalking with engineered light, not sunlight. And this is the maintenance of a sun that's never in Florida today, nor at any time, based on what the stalkers at Woodside Senior Apartments are maintaining presence under, amongst what has nothing to do with the engineered light that's appearing inside. It's also occurring underneath a covered structure at that great distance, in concert with the population that's maintaining presence in this environment. And just, you can pay attention to the acoustics as I go down here. The demon in the background, gang stalking in the kitchen, using the microwave and the refrigerator and the faucet as a means of stalking with noise. That's the cackling demon that is entirely psychopathic with multiple personalities, and thought that it was going to, with a high school education, outwit me behind my back. In concert with a corrupt government, that's the only way that you can get away with these things, in doing so while falsely depicting the character of the one whom they literally want to be. It's very pathetic, but it's also very threatening. And this is speaking to, again, advocating the ways in which the laws in California are going to change. All right, the targeting system under deliberately crafted law equals kidnapping, theft of property, and also causes what is murder. All right. This is the entity that is doing so in this specific environment. It is currently 5:03 p.m. The entity has the fake sun in perfect alignment with me at 5:01 p.m. The entity is keeping the fake sun while I'm documenting the fake sun reflecting off of my bedroom window in Los Angeles, that's building 1806, and the fake sun that is reflecting off of my bedroom window is Los Angeles, is not outside of her bedroom, her patio glass door. And it's also not a coincidence that the demon is using the faucet and the refrigerator and the microwave as a means of simultaneity of conduct. As I open the patio glass door, the faucet comes on. As I aim my camera down this way, the microwave door closes. That's also not sunlight while it's reflecting off of my bedroom window in Los Angeles. Which is what I documented at approximately 4:50. You can look at the video documentation where LAPD is stalking with amplified helicopter activity. All right, that was yesterday evening at or around 5 p.m. This is not sunlight either, okay? The entity is engaging what is a pattern of conduct where you can see what my shadow appeared. This is my arm on the ceiling. None of this is sunlight. You are stalking in an apartment, and the third-party landlord company, the property management company, AVANATH Capital Management, is also gang stalking as well. The entity is what you saw, what I started this video. It's getting darker and dimmer. This is what I'm narrating on the podcast. This is where the Ontario International Airport is gang stalking. So let me go ahead and document that, because the City of Ontario, the demon in Unit 55, this demon in Unit 51, sharing in that ongoing obstruction of justice. Ontario International Airport, that's going to be shut down. Gang stalking, which is at 4:57 p.m. While what you saw, the engineered light getting brighter, that's not the sun, nor is that sunlight. That's called light activity. That's what the demon possessed do with their vehicles in the path. You're looking at it happen in the whole demonic environment, while a bunch of stalkers are engaging in surveillance together while I am exposing them. Paul Leon is out of office. Okay, Ontario International Airport, Paul Leon is out of office. Gang stalking at 4:57 p.m. Amplified plane activity, crossing of path in a commercial plane. A lot of money under the fake sun that's idle at this address amongst the engineer light, which, as you saw at the beginning of this video, glowing on and off and on and off, and it hasn't done it since I've been capturing this video. This is exactly what was happening. What, as you saw it in this video, this is what I was narrating about on my podcast. Okay, but you're going to hear it because I'm going to add this video to the podcast as well. This is speaking to everybody that's going to prison. Everybody in units 33 to 64, they're all going to prison. Linda Reyes is going to federal prison. All the employees of Woodside Senior Apartments are going to federal prison and mental asylums, which is fitting. While they're acting in furtherance of committing murder and kidnapping and stealing property that they're never going to get, and they're going to return everything that was stolen to me, while they sought to falsely depict the character of the one whom they want to steal from. And the government necessarily had to do it behind my back, being one that is formally and legally trained and highly educated, and the entity is trying to, on paper, falsely depict me as another way, while they're gang stalking and psychologically torturing the entire time. Which, by the way, is not even getting the reaction that they want. Psychological torture to me is ammunition to prosecute them. But psychological torture is ordinarily designed to cause the ordinary and average American citizen, which doesn't make you weak, it makes you a human being, and also doesn't make you mentally ill. It does not make you mentally ill, and the entity uses deliberately crafted legislation in California to steal, to kidnap American citizens. That is no diagnosis for mental illness. That is not a diagnosis for mental illness. It's called malice. And these are thieving politicians. These are thieving government actors sitting in courts, serving Satan, and gang stalking in that venue as well. And doing so with a bunch of high school graduates, a bunch of unemployed degenerates, gang stalking, serving that same system. It is currently 5:07 p.m. This is the prosecution of the state of California. And this highly unintelligent method of targeting somebody, they're targeting the one that's prosecuting and exposing them. And using the television as a means of monitoring, it's a malice and impunity. All 144 units, they're all losing their apartment homes. So I hope that it's worth it. You're all going to lose your housing now. That's how important I am to you, that you're going to be homeless. That's fine. But that's the entity that is, again, you're hurting yourself at this point. You've exposed who you are, which is a terrorist. You're going to be prosecuted for that. The engineer light is changing in real time. Pay attention to that. Changing in real time. Rewind the tape and see how it was a couple minutes ago. That's not sunlight. All right. It's currently, again, 5:08 p.m. This is documentation of malice and impunity, and the mental illness is personified, all right, through the light activity. These are psychopaths. These are psychopaths that have conspired together as a corrupt society targeting an American citizen. They targeted me, and they targeted me because it is the Lord's will that I expose them to you. I identify them to you, and you need to know that this is of Satan. That's what you need to know. This is what state of California is engaging. It's a business. This is P.O.C. All right, these are, again, the kidnappers that are going to be published online for the world to see how terrorism is executed in the United States. Amongst what, again, the use of police departments in the United States. This is, again, the very unfortunate demise, but what justice requires, what's going to happen to the Ontario Police Department and a lot of those that are currently, and even if they went to a different police department, they're going to find out, they're going to be snatched up by the long arm of the federal law because they're going to be prosecuted. If I documented you, you're going to prison. And they've engaged in kidnapping, and they're gang stalking at 5:12 p.m. by helicopter. And while the demons are aware of what it is, they want to both gang stalk and then try to hide in the background amongst amplified noise, the impossible sound of the train, trying to cloud out the sound of the helicopter, which, again, if you're loudly heard and I document you, of course, the feds already know that you're gang stalking and masquerading as a police department. They also know about your pattern of kidnapping with this hitman. You're all going to prison. Everyone. Every one of you are going to prison. Not only that, they're gang stalking with the demons who are trying to, again, mask that amongst amplified booming. The demon in Unit 55 is going to a mental asylum. The demon inside of this unit is going to a mental asylum. All the demons at Woodside are losing their housing. They're gang stalking while amplified train is heard. It's a method of audible activity like a cackling demon. That's happening, again, while I'm publishing evidence online. This is what the Ontario Police Department is hostile to while they're keeping my devices under surveillance in violation of the federal stalking statute. Their pattern that is documented on video and on podcast over a term of years is already known with regard to their keeping my devices under surveillance and their pattern of conduct of seeking to psychologically torture. while engaging in a pattern of kidnapping in order to obstruct justice, and also criminal defamation, which is also why they're going to prison. The demons that are stalking in helicopter at 5:13 p.m., they will be subject to prison as well. They are gang stalking with the criminally cooperative demons who are stomping inside of their apartments, which is, again, amplification. It's demonic. All right, these demons that are walking around on walkers and walking around with edema in their ankles are not creating earthquakes when they're stomping through the floor. Those are demons who are stalking by residents and who are stalking with noise. It's as demonic as you see on the video. You have to see the video in order to see the glowing engineered light. All right, that's appearing also on the east living room wall. It's appearing and disappearing. And all of this is because these psychopaths are very fearful. But they're fearful, but they continue. This is severe mental illness that is not, you are not to miss what is being told to you now for a reason. This is a warning. This is not to incite fear, but the demon possessed are a threat in this country. These are murderers. These are kidnappers. These are desperate offenders who will engage in all manner of lawlessness, especially once they are outed. Okay, so they engage in this sort of conduct, and this is because they're scared. But they're scared. Their being scared does not cause them or inspire them to cease the criminal conduct. And why are they doing this? Because they're trying to murder and kidnap and steal from me. That's not going to happen. So now what are you doing it for, demons? Their mental illness is put on full display for them to not be able to deny. Okay, these are delusional psychopaths that tell themselves every day that they're normal, that tell themselves they're not doing anything wrong. They tell themselves that what they're doing is appropriate. I'm doing my job. As long as they're lying and they're able to continue the lie, they lie to themselves. Okay, so my documentation, while they're monitoring the evidence, is speaking to the inability to lie to yourself. And so now you are witnessing your own demise and your own public exposure of your severe mental illness, even while a fake sun is over and glowing engineer light appears and disappears and dances all over this defendant's wall inside of her apartment. They're going to prison, and they're gang stalking with the police at 5:13 p.m. trying to cover up the sound of that helicopter. It's occurring with simultaneity to the evidence that I'm publishing onto the Google Drive right now, 5:17 p.m. You will see the images uploaded. I'm going to add the video. Understand that Ontario PD is gang stalking by helicopter at the same time. They're all going to prison in units 33 through 64 and mental asylums. They're all being prosecuted under the Violence Against Women Act. That's going to accomplish removing them from their apartment homes. They're not going to be able to live here anymore because they can't even pay their rent while they're gang stalking with the government that incriminates them by the environment and by their own stalking at this venue. That's the implosion of federal group stalking and monitoring. However, it's 5:17 p.m. That evidence is being published in real time. And then this is going to be the podcast documentation speaking to the obstruction of justice. This is directly informing why the terrorists at Woodside do not deserve to be released from federal prison. They don't deserve to be released from the mental asylums that they're going to necessarily serve prolonged terms in. They've been gang stalking me for over 7 years. So you're talking about a minimum of that. You're getting more than this. They're doing this to try to murder somebody. I'm just the one that lived through it. These old folks have been engaging in this for decades. This isn't their first rodeo. They're acting with impunity with the government that's doing in real time. They deserve to spend the rest of their lives in prison and asylums. And by the way, they're already elderly. So it's less money to keep them locked up until their expiration date. Just FYI. All right. This is the entity that's disposing of American citizens. And I'm speaking to how you prosecute them, how you prosecute these terrorists and deport as many as you can if they're not even natural born citizens. All right, it's currently 5:18 p.m. This is P.O.C. All right, the demon in unit number 55, just having a field day. Again, this is documenting the demon in unit number 51, Tracy Banks, license 9HUZ740, ongoing amplified booming, ongoing engineered light, and ongoing maintenance of the fake sun, ongoing criminal interference with quiet enjoyment, ongoing gang stalking with the government directly, the city of Ontario participating while the documentation in real time is prosecuting. Okay, the demon inside of this apartment, her mental illness and her criminal acts of obstruction, her ongoing obsession with trying to murder me and steal from me is also, you're not forgetful of that while the demon in 55 gang stalking with her. This demon that puts peroxide in her hair and is gang stalking as a way of life over 55 years old. While the amplified booming is maintaining an ongoing chorus while the evidence is being published online. Tracy Banks' fear is therefore being shown. But Tracy Banks is such a threat to herself and the public. This psychopath, indebted to Satan, continuously engages in targeting another who has as an American has a right, as an American citizen protected by the Constitution, has a right to not be subject to terrorism. Tracy Banks is a state actor. This is the state. Just want to be clear. And AVANATH is going to compensate. Okay, 5:21 p.m. P.O.C. All right, and what you will see in the images captured as of 5:37 p.m. That's the last one that I took. The engineered light, the entity is keeping the engineered light inside of the apartment into the sunset. So this is the pattern of conduct that I'm documenting through at the end of my workday when I would get off of work at 5 p.m. at Alvarado Gardens, and my leasing office is in between 1808 and 1810 North Alvarado Street in Los Angeles, 90026. That same leasing office where the fake sun is over me as I would report to my office at 8 o'clock in the morning, and documenting the entity keeping the fake sun for the duration of the day. And then the documentation will continuously progress. Well, you'll see the fake sun in perfect alignment with my bedroom window inside of building 1806. That's where the sun set. That's the same apartment where I'm capturing the sunrise. And then you're looking at what is the living room wall, which is not sunlight. It's also showing the pattern of the window that's appearing on the east living room wall, adjacent to the front door, and it gets more concentrated, and then it goes back to a concentrated amber color, and then it goes back to a gray when it's dimming. You'll see the shadow more concentrated on the patio glass door, which is not sunlight. Okay, the trajectory of the light is speaking to the light that's shooting horizontally. The sun does not shoot light at us while it's above us, by the way, in the sky, and creating our shadow that's on the ground. Light that shoots horizontally creates the shadow of that which the light is touching at a horizontal angle. Light that's coming from the ground, from the sky downward, creates our shadows on the ground beneath us, flat on the ground. This light activity is shown as you're looking at the patio glass door, and the shadow of the patio furniture that's on the opposite side of the patio is not only shown at different heights, it's also shown at different levels of concentration. I'm pointing these details out to you because this is, first of all, it's not even the sun. None of this is sunlight. And it's also speaking to the idle presence of the sun, which is also idle over me in Los Angeles, speaking to what would be more than one sun necessarily. And it's also speaking to the light activity that is dynamic. This is documentation of what is psychological torture, criminal interference with quiet enjoyment, while this circus-like environment with this engineered light, which is stalking me with light, which is harassment via light, which is molestation via light, okay? Terrorism, in other words, via light, that is peculiar in all of its conduct, and it literally is personified through its conduct with regard to my narrating to you what's going on amongst the demons, and the engineer light becomes more and more dynamic. So you have the glowing light, that it gets darker and brighter in there, and that's why I'm pointing out those details to you. But none of this under any circumstances is sunlight, nor is it the sun. The fake sun and the engineer light documentation are two distinct methods of stalking with light. Also, Satan wants to distract you, actually deceive you. Literally, Satan thinks that you are literally an idiot, okay? The fake sun is in the sky. It's literally an ornament that hovers above us, and you are never supposed to question it, and you're supposed to think that everything that's coated in light is sunlight, and none of that is sunlight. It's engineered light, and this engineered light is the integral aspect regarding surveillance. All you have to do is exist in the light amongst those that are keeping each other under surveillance. That's what the demon-possessed are doing. But with regard to the government that there's no contract amongst the American people and the government to keep us under surveillance outside of having some sort of probable cause to investigate for a crime committed, some sort of suspicion for what would, outside of the constitutional basis, you're stalking. It's not lawful surveillance, it's criminal surveillance, and it's stalking. And this is what the government is doing, and doing it in the satanic methods that I'm showing you in that environment where Satan has placed ornaments above the sky over all of us. And it's not the sun, it's not the natural environment, and it is there in order to deceive you that you never question the environment that surrounds you. Not only have I done that brought attention to it, and you're looking at the demonic environment react while I speak the truth about it. It's very, very demonic, okay? Very psychotic. This psychotic environment is speaking to the mental illness of all of those who have been stalking as a way of life, okay? Unbeknownst to American citizens like myself, who are not demon-possessed, who do not serve Satan, who are not engaged in literally focusing my whole life on somebody else, while wanting to outwardly depict and be depicted as somebody that's minding my business, that's out here getting the bag and I'm winning and I'm doing. No, they're demons and they're obsessed with other people. That's their priority in service to Satan, and that's the reality, actually. People are not out here minding their business and living their lives. They're not. They're steadily trying to compete with other people like myself who know Christ, I'm actually minding my business. And Christ has made it my business to prosecute Satan. So this is my business in order to show you how Satan is doing it. And that's the significance of the specific environment that you are aware of is around you. You're not looking at the sunrise in the morning. I'm looking at the fake sun rising over me. You're not looking at the sunrise either. All right. This is a demonic environment, and surveillance is inherent to this demonic environment. Engineer light. As I'm showing you the way that it behaves and the details that you're paying attention to, that's not sunlight. And it's the same light activity at nightfall. As I've also shown you, as I step outside of the apartment, I have multiple shadows across the same patio furniture and patio walkway and the sidewalk. My shadow's on the ground, my shadow's upright on the walls and on the doors. I have multiple shadows fanning across me as I walk. I've got 4, 5 shadows as I wave my hand, and that's the same light activity during the day when you're looking at a fake sun. Okay, none of this is the natural environment. Okay, the entity is both hostile, but it's revealing the mentally ill. Satan doesn't have very good self-control. In other words, Satan cannot exercise the fruits of the Holy Spirit. Satan cannot contain itself, and that fury and that obsession, that stalking is also proven while I am infuriating the demon-possessed who are being exposed. So I want to make sure that I'm also, so that's that with regard to what you'll see in screenshots and images that I'm capturing. While the engineer light is being aimed inside of this apartment, it's not coming from the sun. This is the demonic, it's the supernatural. And demons are filling the apartments while they're stalking by residents. And Satan is filling what is glowing light. It's a practice of witchcraft, okay? And so nonetheless, you'll see that in the environment, but I also want to document what I was the demons are acting pursuant to what they are also stalking and monitoring. So the entity is gang stalking with the ongoing, again, fury and hostility. By the way, it's currently 5:55 p.m. And so I want to make sure that I'm documenting this at 5:21 p.m. The demon in Unit 55 amplified booming. 5:22 p.m. The demons in Units 33 through 64 are all sharing in this criminal conduct that they're going to prison and mental asylums for. But it doesn't have to be those particular demons. This is criminal teamwork, a bunch of bunks of demons. They literally come onto the property. They fly over the property, sharing in the elements of monitoring, gang stalking together. The purpose of gang stalking and maintaining surveillance and harassment and psychological torture is maintaining noise, while engineer light is always present, and they're doing so pursuant to a maintenance of what is, it's not normal noise, it's amplified noise. It's also noise which is targeting. It's targeting with regard to what I do, as I do it, even while I am documenting, as I document, in other words. And it gets louder and it becomes more disruptive. This is harassment by a bunch of demons who are stalking you. And they are stalking where they live. They're stalking by virtue of living there. They're stalking by virtue of working there. That's RGS Landscaping. That's AVANATH Capital Management's employees. That's everybody that's coming onto the grounds, making deliveries. They are intentionally doing so under a fake sun that they know very much is there. That they engineer light that they know very much is there and is appearing and disappearing, and amplified noise that's occurring and recurring. With regard to not only to gang stalk and target me, but also as I document the fact that they're gang stalking and targeting me. Okay, this is terrorism by an entity that seeks to psychologically torture you while they want to steal property that belongs to you. They want to falsely depict your character and paint you as being mentally ill while they keep you subject to this program, and then they sit back and point fingers at you. Oh, look, they're crazy. Oh, look, they're this, they're that. This is something that is not even persuasive with regard to the criminal activity that the state of California has engaged in. There is nothing about me under any circumstances that has ever accurately depicted me as being mentally ill. Me pointing out the pattern of conduct, the same thing that I've been stating from the beginning, is speaking to the mental illness of the entity. The entity, when it's gang stalking with a corrupt government, is able to ignore the evidence and only point out what is evidence that is speaking to what you've never heard of, what is unfathomable, what you cannot otherwise prove without tangible evidence. And I have all of that and more. The entity removes all of that, though. Silences the target individual and just paints them as mentally mentally ill, stating that strangers are stalking you, which is again putting it in the ordinary terms of a person that does not have perhaps eloquence, does not have perhaps education, does not have perhaps a legal skill set. The entity is under no circumstances able to depict me in these ways, but they did it to me. They did it to me anyway. Okay, and I'm letting you know that this has nothing to do with diagnosing mental illness under the deliberately crafted legislation that California uses to kidnap, to defame, to steal from, and to also obstruct justice when they're murdering people and claiming that they've committed suicide and that they were insane under, you know, whatever means whereby they are stating that even out of the mouths of the demon-possessed gang stalkers, directly and vicariously. All right, that's not a diagnosis for mental illness. While I'm pointing out the pattern of conduct to you, that has never been any sort of material for diagnosing mental illness. It has always been pointing to the criminal activity of the corrupt government, the mental illness of that entity that is targeting in such ways for such illegitimate purposes, criminal purposes. You're psychopaths, you're sex offenders, you're predators. Okay, and that remains the case. The entity had to make it up in order to target me, had to make it up. Okay, that level of malice is relevant to the ways in which they will be punished. Okay, it is currently, again, 5:59 p.m. This is P.O.C.
I smell.
I know. I'm getting it for you. I'm getting it. Currently, Thursday, March 13th, 2025 at 7:14 p.m. for documentation purposes. This video is centered on the documentation of the specific environment where Ontario, California, that is the state of California in concert with the people of the state, as they are legally referred to, where the system of domestic terrorism and psychological torture in furtherance of committing murder and kidnapping and theft, which is the criminal motive, amongst other things, besides the fact that this is demonic activity and the practices of a demon-possessed society. And this is all glamorized by the state of California that's not telling you about Satan, while they are literally engaging in the criminal conduct that is energized by Satan himself. So the documentation is revealing the specific environment where the pattern of conduct remains underway, and that's what I documented in Ontario, California. And what you see on YouTube, which is video evidence that is already published for you, this is documentation that I captured regarding March 13, 2024. This is relevant to what is time of year, time of day, duration of time analysis. Okay, and that's because today is March 13, 2025, and I'm referring to evidence that I captured showing you the environment that defies nature. It is also irreconcilable with what science would tell you about how the natural environment operates and how it is expected to behave. And again, incongruent with nature and the operation of the natural environment, I am showing and prosecuting and exposing, first of all, demon possession, demonic activity, which is shown and exhibited through the unnatural environment that surrounds me, and criminal activity, which is stalking, criminal surveillance that a government, a public entity, is intentionally and continuously, obsessively, maliciously engaging in with a criminal purpose to falsely depict the character of an American citizen, to murder an American citizen, to kidnap an American citizen. Kidnapping by the government will kidnap you by defaming you as either a criminal or one who is mentally incapable, mentally incapacitated one way or another. The entity is doing this pursuant to a criminal pattern of conduct, and it is shown through the specific environment which defies nature. It is demonic. In courts, that would be referred to as malicious engagement in what is stalking, conspicuous stalking by a population. It is what the FBI is interested in, referred to as public corruption. Okay, the entity is engaging in the pattern of conduct. This is the prosecution of the state, and this is documentation in reference to what was captured a year ago, where you're looking at what defies the natural environment. And this is giving context to the intentional and deliberate conduct of a behavioral pattern that's exhibited by a population, and the conduct that is in violation of existing laws, while the law is being violated by the government itself, by a bunch of demons who are outwardly depicting themselves and wanting to be viewed in one way, and I am showing you and taking off the mask and showing you actually what they are and what they are maliciously engaging in against an innocent American citizen who I am advocating on behalf of. I am innocent myself, meaning I have done nothing for the government to have any warrant or probable cause is the measure under the law, okay? And nor is it God's will that Satan execute me and take my life and take what it belongs to me by virtue of serving Satan, which is what the state of California has attempted to commit. And not only am I exposing the wiles of the devil, I'm also identifying all of Satan's employees. I am also speaking to the ways in which you can be aware of how this demonic activity is occurring right in front of your face in an environment that you were not paying attention to, but now you are aware of, because these are the times that we are in, and the way that the American government is targeting American citizens is speaking to that which is going to continue to get worse. And it is going to continuously violate what are now constitutional rights, which will in the future be literally irrelevant. Now, what you are unaware of is that they're actually irrelevant now. You are just conditioned to think that you have these rights that you can reference. You can, if you pay attention, you know what your constitutional rights are. And by the way, every American citizen should know your constitutional rights. We have been so distracted, so spoiled as a country that we don't pay attention to these things that we literally take for granted. But nonetheless, regardless of the fact that they are actually irrelevant, why are they irrelevant? I'm stating that the fact that they're irrelevant because the government does not actually abide by these laws. They are engaging in what is the outward form for appearing to be governed by rules and policies and the laws. But in fact, I'm showing you the malicious way in which there's a whole operation of government that is entirely malicious, and it is not only unconstitutional, it's inhumane. Okay, so you don't have the two coexisting, and one is speaking to the ongoing legitimacy and constitutional framework of the government. No, the truth is what is going on that no one wants to be known. That's what actually is the case. Okay, and that secret aspect to what the American government is practicing is that which is at some point in history, it's not going to hide its face anymore. It's going to be outwardly showing you how hostile it is to you and your so-called God-given rights and your constitutional rights and your right from this and your right from that, things that you are very much likely not paying attention to now, and you're going to cherish them when they are no more. Okay, so this is just speaking to an inevitable future in this country. While the government is currently treating your constitutional rights as though it's fecal matter on toilet paper, they do not care, okay? The government is engaged in what is targeting an American citizen. That is, my own government is targeting me. I want you to let you know, you also know that the inevitable demise of this country is also that which is coming, and it is inevitable. And you're witnessing its implosion while I, an American citizen, am being targeted by the American government. And we are supposed to be the leader in the world, and that is also a farce. Okay, these are things that you are aware of because of the fact of this system and the fact that the United States is targeting American citizens in this way and is seeking to outwardly project itself, outwardly present itself on the world stage in one manner. And there is a whole operation that is coexisting with that farcical existence, that farcical presentation of itself, okay? And that is to the demise of American citizens who suffer in silence. And it is shown, yes, it is directly relevant to the environment that defies nature and the way that the natural environment operates based on what we know and any other fifth grader knows. Okay, the entity is engaged in what is malicious and criminal activity on behalf of a public entity, and it is a violation of the constitutional rights of the American citizen that is subject to it, and who is also not ambiguously, but it is an unambiguous threat, a very specific threat to that targeted individual. There is no ambiguity, in other words, regarding who is being targeted in that environment. It is shown through the natural environment, and it is also shown through the pattern of conduct by that population in that environment who are maliciously targeting as a corrupt population together. All right, and then wanting to, again, falsely depict itself as not only enjoying the constitutional privileges that American citizens enjoy in this country, but also the government exploiting the same constitutional, that's the same document that is providing it authority to exercise as a government, okay? And I'm specifically referencing what would be the executive branch, but it would be all branches. But the executive branch at the state level, the local level, the gang stalking starts at the police departments. But you're talking about, and how I'm talking about getting you into the system, getting into the court system, depicting you as somebody that has violated some right, and it's a kidnapping from the beginning, pursuant to this system of targeting. Okay, so that's what's relevant, and you're going to look at the top. This is published on YouTube. This is the documentation that I captured today in 2024, and as you can see, at 8:19 a.m. the fake sun is in perfect alignment with my living room window and building 1806, and as you can also see, at 5:08 p.m., which is the video we're going to review, the fake sun is in alignment to my same position inside of that same apartment at 5:08 p.m. This is the entity engaging in the pattern of conduct of rising and setting the fake sun that is isolated to me at Alvarado Gardens in Los Angeles, which is showing what defies nature. This is within a pattern of conduct, in conformity to a pattern of conduct, which is shown through the unnatural environment, where a system of surveillance, which is committed in furtherance of targeting American citizens in order to murder them, to kidnap them, to steal from them, and doing so, which is the business of the demon possessed. So this is satanic. It's not just criminal. The government just doesn't just want to embezzle money. For example, they don't want to just sell drugs to youth, which is bad enough. I'm not saying that people that aren't demon possessed don't do those things. I'm saying that the entire system, the environment, the behavioral pattern of the entity that is gang stalking and the environment that it's gang stalking in, it's the product of demon possession, and it is entirely maliciously underway. It's a whole secret system, and I'm exposing that secret. I'm also speaking to what is unprecedented violations of an unconstitutional and inhumane nature, which is speaking to laws that are in existence that need to change. Also laws that need to come into existence in order to address the ways in which the American government is currently and has already committed these offenses against American citizens who are currently kidnapped right now and who have been stolen from, who they've been defamed in doing so, and those who are already 6 feet under. They have been murdered. Okay, they have taken their own lives, actually having committed suicide when you're subject to this sort of targeting. This is speaking to what, as far as the loss of a life pursuant to the target individual taking their own life, which again, you can't base that on what any sort of information that the entity would present, because they're corrupt and they make up the information. They do the same thing when they have committed the murder, and they will call it a suicide. Okay, but I want to be clear. The entity does engage in conduct where the ordinary target individual is likely to engage in things such as taking their own lives. But the entity, and as far as Christ Jesus is concerned, the blood is on their hands, and they will answer for that. It is a taking of the life of another. Okay, and it's satanic through and through. All right, so I want to speak to that. It's already been 10 minutes. I didn't want to make this video that long. I want to go over what I captured at 3:22 p.m. You can see the entity is keeping the fake sun over me, so let's just briefly look at that really quickly. This is where the entity is starting the day with the fake sun over me at 8 o'clock in the morning. That's LAPD. Group stalking, amplifying inside of my apartment, and group stalking just like you saw in the afternoon at the same exact property where Don Noggle is on the line, and Maria Solis Alvarez and this entity is engaging in group stalking in the path, group stalking with the people. All right, that's called relevant positioning. And the people down here in your light, this is a picture of group stalking. Crossing path in the vehicle on Alvarado Street. Crossing path while they're pacing all around. This is actually demonic activity, and it's occurring in a specific environment. The sun is not over Alvarado Gardens. That's the light source that's in alignment to my apartment at Alvarado Gardens, and it remains for the duration of the day. In the morning, you're looking at what is concentrated light, and in the evening, 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 9 hours later, the entity is placing the light source in alignment and suggesting that that would be the sun 9 hours later and aiming sunlight on this wall. The Los Angeles Police Department is engaging in practicing demonic activity, which is a criminal system of federal group stalking and monitoring, and is necessarily relying on the criminal presence of the people of the state, and that is why you have what is the impossible light activity. And this department is going to be removed from existence. All right, they're going to be removed, plucked out altogether. They're engaging in what is domestic terrorism. They are an enemy of the American people, and I'm exposing what is a secret society that corrupt law enforcement agencies are a part of. This is what's going on in the United States. So this is why you have this light here. You're going to look at where the entity is maintaining a light source. For example, the Ontario Police Department are doing the same thing under the same exact phenomenon, group stalking in helicopter with the people of the state, maintaining that specific environment. It's currently 8:21 a.m. And like I stated, Don Nagel is indeed going to federal prison. This is the entity that he's acting on behalf of. Hold on, I want you to hear that. That's ongoing amplified helicopter activity. It's a communication of a threat. It's audible activity. It's accomplishing monitoring right now. And that's access, that you already know, is group stalking. That's the people of the state utilizing a company to engage in the same exact activity creation. All right, this is impossible. This is all engineered light all over the property. P.O.C. It is currently 8:22 a.m. I want you to see the light source where LAPD is group stalking in the private space. That's a sex offender. That's in concert with the people. You already know that they're a sex offender. The engineered light is inside of the private space. That's a sex offender. The Los Angeles Police Department group stalking in concert with the people. Under the impossibility, this is the phenomenon, it's a specific environment. This is documentation going against all of the people of the state who are acting in regards to what is a state system referred to as federal group stalking and monitoring. This is not the sun that's over the documented places. The entity is at the same time suggesting that the sun is in its zenith over the Ovid Family Community Library in Ontario, California. The entity is at the same time suggesting that the sun is in its zenith over my head at the Ontario Town Square. The entity is suggesting that at the same exact time, the sun is in its zenith over my head at the Economy Inn at 2301 South Euclid Avenue, Ontario. The entity is suggesting that at the exact same time, the sun is over my head in its zenith at Country Village Apartments in Haruba Valley, California. The entity is suggesting that at the same time, the sun is in its zenith over my head at the Upland Public Library. The entity is suggesting that the sun is in its zenith over my head in the same manner at the Fontana Lewis Library in Fontana, California, at the Fontana Chamber of Commerce, where I have gotten on Omnitrend, the third-party group stalker that it utilizes the roads and highways to engage in federal stalking with the people and with the state. And the entity is maintaining the light source, suggesting that the sun is in its zenith through on transportation through the windows and the windshield, while it is stationary here, while you see the Los Angeles Police Department in relevant position engaging in the elements of monitoring, that's the sun that I captured in alignment with me while I'm on public transportation for the duration of an entire route, while I am en route to, for example, the Fontana Lewis Library early in the morning, leaving from Ontario. The entity is suggesting that this is the sun over my head in its zenith as it is rising over me at the Ontario Museum of History and Arts at the intersection of Holt and Euclid Avenue. And not only all of these venues and also Omnitrends am I suggesting what is the specific environment and not the natural environment where Los Angeles Police Department is group stalking with the people. This is evidence against the entire entity because it's speaking to what is the unnatural environment, the impossibility, the scientific impossibility, the placement of an environment around the target individual where a demonic system of targeting is underway, and it is marked with the hallmark of group stalking by corrupt law enforcement agencies. In all of the aforementioned venues, the entity is group stalking by corrupt law enforcement agencies via helicopter, and this is documentation that exists for all of the above that I just mentioned. The entity is engaging in what is the specific pattern of conduct that is unmistakable, and it is beyond any matter of coincidence. You have not only the placement of an environment that is irreconcilable, you have what is the incredible coincidence. It's not a coincidence, it is a pattern of group stalking, just like you see the Los Angeles Police Department doing in helicopter. It is a massive means of engaging in the criminal elements of monitoring. It is also a means of threatening the target individual that is both documenting, and it is also the threatening means that the people engage in. These are the demon-possessed. And through their very engagement in the criminal elements of monitoring, they are communicating their hostility, their aggression, and that is also reasonably the case, whether you can quote-unquote translate demonic activity or not. That is reasonably the case. All right, you are a stalker, and when you want to engage in stalking someone with a pencil and you want to engage in stalking someone with a knife, you are communicating a threat through any and everything that you're doing while you are engaged in that criminal act. This is a government that is utilizing corrupt law enforcement agencies to engage in the criminal elements of monitoring, which is group stalking, facilitating the people of the state. All of them in relevant position are monitoring with communication devices, living and being in relevant position, engaged in an ongoing criminal monitoring system, highly demented, inherently demented, and doing so through the corrupt law enforcement agencies that is designed to threaten and torment and harass and intimidate.
Okay? It is a threat to your liberty, by the way. It is currently 8:26 a.m. and there is no sun over Country Village Apartments. That was the light source, by the way. It did not go anywhere as I captured it in video at all of the aforesaid venues. The entity kept that light source over my head at all of the aforesaid venues for the duration of the day. That is not the sun. At any and all of those aforesaid venues. In addition, that is speaking to what is not the sun that's ever going to migrate out of the jurisdiction of let alone Southern California or San Bernardino or LA County, but let alone you're not possibly seeing the sun in the state of Florida. Based on what we understand of the way that the natural environment works, Florida is not seeing the sun 3 hours ahead from now while I'm looking at it outside of my window of Alvarado Gardens. All right, and what is the hallmark speaking to what is the phenomenon of the unnatural environment? It's group stalking by the corrupt law enforcement agencies. Okay, and so I'm going to reiterate, Don Noggle is a third-party group stalker who is threatening my life while I am working for a third-party company, speaker companies, and I am subject to workplace harassment, terrorism by an entity that is engaging in the system of federal group stalking and monitoring, and he is documented engaging in what is criminal facilitation on more than one ground, both as a third-party group stalker working for a third-party company, providing a malicious guise in which the system is underway, and while literally engaging in the criminal elements of monitoring while he is in Palo Alto on the phone with me and the entity is monitoring me. Okay, he's going to federal prison, just like I stated. It is currently 8:27 a.m. and this is P.O.C. I am inside on the third floor, inside of what is Alvarado Gardens, apartment number 1806, number 6 on the third floor.
All right, and so I want you to see that. This is where the entity is maintaining the specific environment. This is documented at 8:19 in the morning on this day in 2024. And I want to review. The entity kept the fake sun over me all day long, and you know that this is the case. I was showing on the bottom. You can't see what I'm doing when you're listening on the podcast, but while I was letting my video that I documented a year ago remind you about what it is that I've already stated regarding the specific environment and the stalking that LAPD is engaging in, while they are exhibiting that they are in fact demon possessed and fully and intentionally, knowingly and maliciously engaged in targeting and psychologically torturing someone that they are aware of is under no circumstances mentally ill or has committed no crime, while they are engaging in the pattern of conduct that is intended to terrorize and psychologically torture that person in order to get them in a condition or circumstances where you could surround them with that which is supposed to otherwise establish them as being a criminal or being mentally ill. This is documentation of the malice of the entity that is gang stalking, and they are demons doing so under the fake sun. And so what you can't see in the podcast is that while this video was underway showing the fake sun at 8 o'clock in the morning, 8:19 specifically, I documented the fake sun over the same apartment building where I'm in Ontario at the Woodside Senior Apartments during the 8 a.m. hour at 8:55. Okay, so the entity is engaged in the pattern of conduct, and you are understanding with regard to this video that we're going to look at now at 3:22 p.m. The entity kept the fake sun on this day in 2024. This is what I'm capturing. Video at 8:19, 9:36, 9:47, 10:47, 11:28, 1:25 p.m., 1:33 p.m., 2:10 p.m., 2:21 p.m., and 3:44 p.m. From 2:21 p.m. to 3:44 p.m., the fake sun stayed over me at Alvarado Gardens. So it is not the natural environment that I'm capturing the fake sun. That's necessarily the fake sun, not the natural environment. Speaking to criminal surveillance of a demonic nature that is designed to keep someone under surveillance, to psychologically torture them, to harass and terrorize them, also with impunity and malice while they are monitoring the evidence about their targeting me in real time. Okay, that's the significance of me capturing video on this day at 3:22 p.m. The video ended at 3:31 p.m. So we're going to look at this video captured at 3:44 p.m. very briefly. And to show you the fake sun in alignment, what's over my head at my office at 1810 North Alvarado Street. That's the apartment building that I'm standing. I'm staying at the same apartment building during the 8 a.m. hour when I go to work, and the fake sun is over the same building on the opposite side. So this is, again, the entity that keeps the fake sun over that building all day long, from the quote-unquote left side to the right side, or right side to the left side, whatever way you want to refer to that. It's going from one side of the building to the other while it stays there. That's not the sun. That's the P.O.C. though. Okay, so we're going to look at this video. This is documented 3:44 p.m.
It is 3:44 p.m. and I remain at the same location. This is the third-party facilitating venue, Alvarado Gardens, and this is the maintenance. a phenomenon every time I continuously capture this. Again, we could just go from today. The entity is engaging in conduct as though the sun is rising through my living room window and aiming what is absolutely abnormal light that creates all manner of magnification and upright shadows and multiple shadows and concentrated multiple layers of light through the depths of my apartment and through what are closed blinds. This is in the morning. It is 3:44 p.m. and I'm at the same property. I'm feet away from my apartment, and that is again over the hillside. There is
So just to be clear, let me show you what it is that I am referencing with regard to the property where I'm at. This is my apartment building, building 1806 right here. And in the living room, this is the hillside. I'm essentially facing, this is the hillside where I'm touching the screen over here. You can see the dot. All right. My building is this apartment 1806. All I do is walk downstairs and I go feet away to the management office. This is where I'm standing right here, and I'm facing the parking lot area on this side of building 1810. Okay, my office is right here facing building 1810, facing in this direction, facing the parking lot where you see the fake sun on this side of the building. Okay, and at the 8 a.m. hour, the fake sun is on this side of the building. And by the way, at any point in the day when I walk on any side of the building, the fake sun remains over me. So it's not like it stays on this side of the building all day long and then it stays on this side of the building. The fake sun remains over me no matter what side I go to, while it maintains an ongoing incremental movement from one side of the building to the next. It will maintain essentially starting on one side of the building and ending on the opposite side of the building. That's what's happening as it is staying at one property, building 1806, where the sun rises, and where I'm going to show you at 5 p.m. where the fake sun is outside of my same apartment, my bedroom window where the sunset is captured, okay, at 5 p.m. and at 3 o'clock in the afternoon while I'm at the same property. This is a small property, Alvarado Gardens, with 60 units. Okay, this is where the entity is keeping the fake sun rising and setting it in alignment to me. The sunrise is in alignment to my building, apartment 1806. The sunset is in alignment to my apartment window, apartment 1806, where I am showing you it downstairs at the leasing because the entity keeps the fake sun over me. That's where you're catching it at this angle directly over the top of my head, in defiance of nature, however. Okay, this is what the entity is doing while it is gang stalking and keeping the fake sun over, particularly this very specific building right here. Let me edit this for you in real time. This is what an entity is doing, gang stalking under the fake sun that remains over the building right in front of me. This building right here. The entity is keeping the fake sun, and it is rising in alignment to what is the fake sun is rising on this side of the building where I'm touching over here, where you see the pool end, and the entity is keeping the fake sun and then setting at the parking lot end on the opposite side. That's the pattern of conduct. This is what the entity is doing while it's keeping the fake sun over me in Los Angeles. And what's over Alvarado Gardens is not over Woodside Senior Apartment, specifically the Demons units 33 through 48. Okay, the entity is doing so while keeping the fake sun over me in a manner where I am being targeted in that specific environment where engineer light coats everything, and the prop in the sky sitting over the roof where all these demons are shown to be stalkers and psychopaths. Their whole life is an act. The government is maintaining an ongoing act with them, targeting me together with it, by it, okay? While you can see the prop in the sky, which is speaking to what is under no circumstances the natural environment, where I documented on this day the fake sun rising and setting over me. So this is what is relevant, and the entity is stalking with amplified noise while I am capturing this video. The demons in units 33 through 64, where this fake sun is positioned, they're all going to prison and in mental asylums, and they're monitoring the evidence in real time.
There's no operation of any natural environment where the sun, which is a constant moving star, that is not, I mean, basically staying over one property and visible from any other city. This is not visible in the state of Florida, which is 3 hours ahead of us. They're at the tail end of the day. The sun is supposedly setting in Florida, and you have what is the maintenance of what would appear to be the sun on this opposite side of the same apartment building where I was this morning, where the LAPD were group stalking, flying beside the sun, by the way. That's what they did on camera. This is a phenomenon. Okay, so I just want to be clear while I'm capturing.
Pay attention to what's happening above my head. The state is flying directly over me. inaudibly with the plane. We could see the cloud paths. They're gang stalking. I've pointed this out. They do this to me at Woodside Senior Apartments as well, flying over me at the front door while the fake sun's over my head as I walk out to the parking lot. Documented Uber Eats. All right, under this fake sun that's over me at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, at the same position, by the way, and the entity is flying over my head in the same way that they are in Los Angeles, while an idle light source is over the top of my head, and I'm capturing documentation. This is the government that is very much targeting and is aware of the fact that I am enforcing my rights to prosecute it. This is speaking to the demons. The demon possessed are being identified, and also their impunity to law and order is also being documented to prosecute them.
What is an ongoing phenomenon. This is not the operation of the natural environment. This is prefacing, again, while I give you a vivid illustration. Not only can you isolate the universe, and by isolate the universe, we can just analyze it here at Alvarado Gardens. This is not possibly the sun. All right, at no time is this sun moving anywhere down toward anybody over there. There's the courts in LA. There's the Arco on Glendale Boulevard. There is the Vons on Glendale Boulevard. The entity's light source is right here. You saw it. That's why it's aiming light right into my office, into the depths of my office. Underneath a covered walkway, by the way, that's not what sunlight does. The sun is way above us, and light does not come down and bend underneath into. It is currently.
Oops, sorry.
Doorways, it would be shaded if this was natural light. This would be shaded on the inside of the office. Second of all, you also know that sunlight doesn't create like what you saw earlier. That was very demonic. Well, I've got a shadow down here, which you saw in the video earlier, and then you've got a manifestation of light appearing out of nowhere. That's demonic. It's not sunlight. It's not normal light. It's engineered light, and this is the placement of a light source in plain defiance of nature.
Okay, so this video that is captured at 3:44 p.m., the video that I captured today at 3:31 p.m. is when the video ended. And clearly, as you know, because I captured another video at 5, the fake sun didn't go anywhere. It stays in alignment to me. This is where the fake sun set, speaking to a city full of people that are stalking and monitoring me together. This is an obsession of a demon-possessed population who are, again, lusting after my blood, wanting to murder me, wanting to kidnap me, monitoring me every moment of my life, and doing so with regard to their knowledge that it's also being documented in order to prosecute the stalker and the sex offender. Okay, there's no sun that's going to be over me on the same day in 2024 at around the same time that's creating any sunlight on this patio glass door. Okay, neither, which is the point of my video, is sun going to appear underneath a covered patio like you will see, defying nature in its very presence. This is illuminated light that's appearing while the sun is over me at the same time in Los Angeles at building 1810 in North Alvarado Street and 90026. Okay, this is a dynamic light that's moving across the patio glass door. As you can see it, again, you can't see this on the podcast, but you can see the video. While it is appearing underneath a covered patio. This is not light that's going to coat the patio glass door. This is light that's coming underneath a structure where these structures are built to create shade. So this engineered light is supposed to be that which is sunlight that's bending underneath covered structures and coating the glass and creating the shadow of these trees on the patio glass door and literally appearing on the inside of the apartment, on the floor inside of the apartment. Okay, this is called stalking with light. And it's very demonic, but this is the P.O.C. that I documented.
It is currently 3:22 p.m. This is impossible light activity. There's a covered patio structure, so this is demonic. This is called stalking with light. And as I'm in operation of my communication device, the demon that's going to the mental asylum inside of the apartment is right on the opposite side of the wall, stalking the path. Tracy Banks, license 9HUZ740. Also the demon that's directly above, stalking in the path, license 5WUB715 and unit number 55, are stalking while engineered light is coating a patio glass door. That is the shadow of trees that are at a distance while interfering with the operation of the television while I'm in operation of my devices in the supernatural environment. At the same time, while interfering with the television, while stalking with light under what is the fake sun, because that's the evidence of what is stalking with the fake sun when you have light that is not sunlight all over and on the inside, because this is my shadow here that's also not sunlight. The entity is amplifying ongoing noise. AVANATH Capital Management is going to be prosecuted for engaging in an egregious sex offense of its occupants while stalking them. And this is the absurdity of the corrupt companies that are gang stalking, and it's entirely demonic. They're going to be prosecuted for terrorism. of its own occupants, and it's in violation of the Violence Against Women Act while its residents are gang stalking the occupants. That's what the demon in Unit 51, the demon in Unit 55 are sharing in, intentionally and knowingly and maliciously and continuously and obsessively in a supernatural environment. These are demon-possessed stalkers who are also sex offenders doing the same thing moments ago while my panties were down, my legs were spread open. These same sex offenders salivating and worshiping my genitalia, sharing in a sex offense as well in doing so. This is what the city of Ontario is obsessed with. That's why there's a whole fake sun over this specific building in Ontario, and it's not over Los Angeles, over me in Alvarado Gardens. That's not the natural environment that I documented at this time of year on this day, including at the same time because the sun was rising and setting over me at Alvarado Gardens, where LAPD were stalking, just like the Ontario Police is stalking in the city of Ontario with the demon-possessed population at Woodside Senior Apartments.
So this, what you see remaining over me in Los Angeles, is first of all speaking to what is necessarily more than one sun. As you see the object itself, this is the object itself that is again so low in elevation. This is the asininity, like seriously, the asininity of what the entity do. It's at such a low elevation. It's lower. The tree is taller than where the sun is in the sky. Second of all, the engineered light that's coming underneath a covered structure. It is touching and coating the patio glass door. The leaves on the tree, the shadow of the leaves that are blowing in the wind are appearing on the patio glass door. This is not sunlight, nor is this the sun that you see here that is at the same time over me in Los Angeles on this day at the same time. Okay, that's understanding the specific environment where you are identifying the fact that you're being targeted by the state, where the state is engaging in what is psychologically harmful means of targeting you while simultaneously trying to falsely depict your character, including having committed that in courts. Anybody engaged in that is acting in furtherance of the P.O.C. to commit murder, kidnapping, and that's the motive to derive some sort of benefit. Here the entity seeks to steal while falsely depicting my character, and there are a lot of people going to prison for it. The entity is doing so while this is the demonic. And the entity knows very well that you have never heard of things such as the fake sun or more than one sun, or what is this nonsense about the sun. The entity is targeting in ways that have never been heard of before, and they are doing so intentionally to maliciously target someone and falsely depict their character if you are even to utter such things. Okay, but the targeted individual doesn't even get this deep into the evidence to prosecute the government. Okay, they are criminally defaming for far less, such as stating that strangers are stalking, which is exactly what they're doing under this fake sun and an engineered light. Okay, this is what the demon gang stalking unit number 55. She is going to a mental asylum. Let's take a look at her. She's going to a mental asylum. So is this one, license 9HUZ740, gang stalking in the apartment where I am, and gang stalking with the demon, license 5WUB715. This is criminal activity, stalking by residents, surveillance by residents, and it's the criminal conduct of AVANATH Capital Management, who is going to be prosecuted in the same way that Speaker Companies is gang stalking, and everybody at the venue is going to be prosecuted for stalking in violation of the Violence Against Women Act, the entire property, all 144 units. Okay, this is the amplified audible activity that is underway while I am reminding you about the fake sun that remained over me this afternoon at 3:33 p.m. And this is where it remained. It didn't go anywhere. The fake sun stays here, which is what I documented.
This is the dimming down of the engineered light. It gets darker. All right, and it's been getting brighter. You'll see the image that I just took a moment ago at 4:58 p.m. It's currently 5 p.m. There you go. This is engineered light. It's getting brighter and dimmer in real time. This is, again, engineered light. You can see the glowing aspect. That's dynamic light. Under what is the furniture is on the opposite side of the patio. You can see it's appearing downward, closer to the ground, where the shadow is typically appearing on all sides. You can see the shadow of the same furniture that doesn't move. Of what is the light source.
So I want you to see something. This is where the fake sun is inside of my apartment at 5:08 p.m. This is when I captured this video. I just cut from the video that I captured today at 5 o'clock. The video ends at 5:08 p.m. The video that I captured on this day in 2024 begins at 5:08 p.m. And this is again speaking to what is at around the same exact time, where under no circumstances even an 8-minute difference will not reconcile what is the creation of light on the patio glass door in the same way that it was during the 3 p.m. hour, speaking to an enduring presence of a sun that is also documented in the morning over the same apartment building in alignment to me amongst the engineered light that remains inside of the apartment at all times. And you are literally looking at the object itself while you are looking at the object as I open the blinds at 5 o'clock in the evening. Okay, what you see here is not that which is outside of my bedroom window in Los Angeles. The same apartment where I documented the fake son, necessarily the fake son, requiring more than one son based on this evidence. It is accurately and appropriately referred to as the fake son, where criminal surveillance, proven beyond a reasonable doubt, is underway. And the P.O.C. encompasses more than just the evidence of a fake son, where a whole fake society is targeting an American citizen, exhibiting severe mental instability in doing so. Okay, the entity is keeping this fake son over me, and what you see at 5 o'clock, 5:08 p.m. is not the son that is outside of this patio glass door. Okay, the entity is engaging in what is targeting, and targeting is shown through that unnatural environment.
Which is the guise under which that's supposedly sunlight on my bedroom wall after 5 p.m. I showed you what's the light source in alignment to my office. This position over building 1818 is not in alignment to my office. This is the real-time movement. Just like when you saw the at 3:44 p.m., this light source was over building 1810, which is way over there, people. It's way over there. Look at the property map. You'll see what is just moving, and all I'm doing is documenting it for you, and then you can literally watch and see what is going on in the environment. It has nothing to do with the natural environment. This is about building 1818 in alignment to my bedroom. You see it in alignment to my apartment, my living room window in the morning, not the sun. This is also not in any other state. This is no misperception of depth. You're looking at what is the illusion. The entity is suggesting that that's the sun and that's sunlight. In addition to that, let's just keep going with my illustration. Not only is this movement from being in alignment to my office from down there, okay? I took a picture of it. The entity's light sources engaged in, just total outright stalking with an environment. It's not funny. It's outright stalking with an environment. It's terrorism. All right. And this is the type of conduct that an entity that is targeting an American citizen is practicing. And it is so unbelievable. But for proof, it is supposed to falsely depict that target individual as suffering from some mental incapacity. This results in kidnapping by that entity that is monitoring that targeted individual. Understand the size of injustice that is going on, what the importance of what I'm exposing. And then you see these psychopaths group stalking in helicopters. All right, you see these group stalkers holding children's hands and giving loving hugs while they know they're being captured on camera, monitoring while they're holding the hands of a child, monitoring while they're giving each other hugs, engaging in the most malicious types of what is demonic behavior, accomplishing the crime on camera. On camera. Psychopaths, that's malice. That's a psychopath, that's a danger to society. They know what they're doing. They intentionally engage in it in such malicious manners. In your face, by the way, which is an impermissible threat. Documentation is underway. I have documented all the ways in which the people of the state are a threat to the public. They're a threat to American citizens, while the people of the state are group stalking on behalf of the government. Nonetheless, this light source is over building 1818 in alignment with my bedroom. This is not a coincidence. It's called a pattern. It's a pattern of conduct. And while I remain at 2301 South Euclid Avenue, I will remind you about documentation where the entity is maintaining a light source that is in no way in any direction, which is going to be neither in alignment with building 1810, where the entity kept the light source all day, or in alignment with my office, where the light source was in alignment to the my office door while I had stepped out at 5 p.m. where I got off of work. And as I go to, while this entity is stalking with the light source, that is speaking to, let me be clear, while the entity is stalking with the light source, which you are witnessing, that lets you know all of the entity is stalking me. That's what group stalking is. That's the significance of this. They are engaging in what is group stalking. That's the significance. I want you to make sure you connect all the dots. It is an unfathomable, sick, demented crime. They are all stalking. And they do it in plain sight while they live around, work around, come around you. Using their businesses, using whatever it is they do day to day. And this is an ongoing crime being perpetrated on a 24-hour basis. It's a violent sex offense. It is of a highly demented nature. Okay, there is no sun that's going to be over in alignment to me, aiming any light underneath the walkway at any time of day, by the way. But while the entity is engaging in the illusion that the sun is setting at 2301 South Euclid Avenue, after it had been there for the duration of the day, that's the P.O.C. But again,
and it's the same analysis with regard to rising the fake sun over me at Woodside Senior Apartments, where the demons are monitoring the evidence and engaging in what is real-time harassment. The current time is 7:56 p.m. The demons in units number 33 through 64 are exhibiting desperation and severe mental mental instability, while I'm capturing very damning evidence, the pattern of conduct of the demon-possessed, who are malicious psychopaths who commit murder as a way of life and get away with it by acting with the government, who engage in theft of property and do so getting away with it in concert with the government, who engage in kidnapping by bearing false witness about one's mental illness, about one's threat that they pose to the public or to others or to themselves, and about bearing false witness about some crime that the so-called target individual has committed. This is the entity that is amplifying ongoing booming noises inside of the apartment while the psychopath is gang stalking inside of her own unit on a communication device. Her phone records is a means of prosecuting her. She's gang stalking and monitoring with the demons who are sharing in mental illness with her, while ongoing amplified booming is heard. The elderly people that are unemployed at Woodside Senior Apartments are all going to prison. All right, this is speaking to the same analysis. When you are looking at the fake sun that's over me outside of my bedroom window here, that is not the same sky space, and I'm not able to see what's over outside of my bedroom window in Los Angeles at 1806 North Alvarado Street, apartment number 6 at the same time. When you are looking at, obviously, the fact that the fake sun doesn't have an opportunity to be in Los Angeles with regard to the natural environment. If it was the natural environment, then I would not see it outside of Tracy Banks' patio glass door and vice versa. Okay, the entity is engaged in a pattern of conduct of ongoing psychological torture, which AVANATH Capital Management, who is acting with impunity while simultaneously being prosecuted. That's what's underway while I'm capturing this video right now. It is currently, again, 7:58 p.m. This is the pattern of conduct where the entity is keeping the fake zone on a daily basis at Woodside Senior Apartments, where, again, lawlessness is underway, where the ongoing effort to commit murder and kidnapping upon criminal defamation in doing so. And this is, again, the entity that has an abysmal failure, but this is also the construct of changing the ways that the laws in the corrupt state of California, they must not, in other words, further facilitate the ability for this corrupt society and the corrupt government to falsely depict the character of those, regardless of whether they are engaged in some sort of lifestyle that another person, even a relative or a friend, might find unconventional. And I'm not talking about myself, because none of this serves what happened in my life. The entity tried to literally just try to take over my life, just try to paint me as being crazy upon gang stalking me. And I've been prosecuting the fact that they've been gang stalking, and then they try to use the very evidence that I have been collecting in order to prosecute them, enforce my rights. They tried to use that as evidence. Oh, she's crazy, to put it very succinctly. That's literally what the demon possessed did. That is speaking to malice. It is their criminal engagement in the pattern of conduct that they intentionally and knowingly do so through demonic methods, because you have never heard of things such as the fake sun. And in order to prove that a bunch of demons are targeting and trying to falsely depict your character, you must document it. And only a corrupt government would entertain any of this in their courts. And as they did so, every judge, every demon-possessed, gang-stalking attorney, because that's what you are when you're participating in any acts in the courts amongst any of the people of the state, you're participating in an ongoing attempt to kidnap, and you go to prison for that. This is how the United States is engaging in some sort of sophisticated method of domestic terrorism. The laws are going to change, and the laws are going to be very, very severe with regard to the punishment of government actors, like judges, attorneys, in the courts, and the government itself that is gang stalking through a demon-possessed and corrupt population, whom it is relying on to target American citizens. That is what is amplifying ongoing noise at 7:54 p.m. while I'm capturing evidence. This is, again, everybody in units 33 through 64. They're going to prison and mental asylums. AVANATH Capital Management employees are going to prison, including Linda Reyes. The ongoing impunity and malice is directly informing how prolonged their sentences shall be. They're headed toward not ever getting out. And remember, this is justice because they have conspired to kill me. That's the whole purpose behind the entity gang stalking me, was murder and getting away with a thievery that they've already committed and sought to continue to engage in. All right, it is currently 8 p.m. This is P.O.C. Alrighty, it is currently 8:02 p.m. documenting ongoing amplified loud booming that's heard inside and surrounding me inside of the unit. The demon Tracy Banks is gang stalking inside of the unit, physically sharing in the elements of monitoring, and also doing so by virtue of use of her communication device. This is federal stalking by virtue of engaging in what is surveillance, and also the elements of monitoring by use of the communication device, and also doing so with impunity. This is ongoing, like during the course of the video where you heard it. The demons in units 49 through 64 who share in physical presence inside of the building itself are stalking by residents inside the one building that were there, sharing presence all around, and the ongoing amplified booming is occurring like what I documented in the midst of the video at 7:54 p.m. As I walk to the kitchen at 8:02 p.m., ongoing amplification of loud booming inside of the apartment. This is a senior citizen complex. All of this is uncharacteristic while you're blatantly looking at what you already know, whether it looks characteristic of what you think a demon-possessed gang stalker is supposed to look like, whatever that looks like in your mind. But I'm just pointing out common sense aspects of the P.O.C. These people are 55 and older, and this ongoing loud activity creation is uncharacteristic of a bunch of elderly folks who would like to, in federal court, want to appear, and they can never. It is impossible for them to appear. They are so surrounded with evidence. None of them are avoiding federal prison, and they will all be facing homelessness if they don't have somebody to take them in, because they won't be getting past a credit and background check. Okay, they're going to be prosecuted for domestic terrorism and stalking in violation of the Violence Against Women Act, and the manner in which they did so. They did so unapologetically. They did so with impunity and a diabolical level of malice in furtherance of committing murder of an American citizen that they knew was also enforcing their rights against them. All right, the entity is just speaking to what is ongoing worthiness of prison for the rest of their lives, while the ongoing amplified audible activity, which is criminal conduct by AVANATH Capital Management, who shall be also civilly prosecuted for this ongoing criminal interference with quiet enjoyment. Okay, the demons are gang stalking while evidence is being published about their criminal system, and they are also criminally monitoring that evidence. This is, again, the fools that are then interfering with the federal investigation. No state government is going to commit this level of crime that they are currently doing now. They are going to serve all the penalties that are accompanying what they are doing very foolishly now. This is speaking to desperation. Really, in reality, these are the demon-possessed who are very fearful. But again, the demon-possessed are not fearful to the degree where they will stop engaging in terrorizing somebody. And that's why they have to learn the hard way, meaning you don't get out of federal prison. Since you think you're going to inflict harm to another because you're scared about getting caught for what you never should have been doing in the first place. And only a mentally ill psychopath resorts to such tactics rather than just stopping. You should probably just stop here. But the mentally ill psychopath cannot make that sort of, they refuse rather, sorry, it's not that they can't, they refuse to make those sort of very common sense decisions. All right, that is a national security threat. They would rather harm others, okay, than stop to engage in what is terrorizing other people that are going to be enforcing their rights. This is informing federal legislation. It's 8:05 p.m. Ongoing amplified booming is happening while I am moving inside of the units, and the demons are going to federal prison for it and mental asylums, and they are all going to be prosecuted under the Violence Against Women Act, and this is state action. All right, it is currently, again, 8:05 p.m. This is P.O.C. regarding the ongoing surveillance of evidence that is also being published against the entity that is engaged in federal group stalking and monitoring and sought to murder and kidnap the one whom they were targeting while trying to falsely depict my character from the beginning. This is speaking to psychopaths who know very well how demented their criminal system, how demented they are and their criminal tactics are, and then seek to defame you while you point out their mental illness by virtue of their pattern of conduct. Okay, that's what's walking around currently, gang stalking at Woodside Senior Apartments, and that's going to be handled and remedied in federal law, under federal law and in federal court. And also, they're doing so. Understand, this is documenting and exposing Paul Leon and everybody working with that corrupt office, the city of Ontario. This is a gang stalking mayor, okay? That's not going to be tolerated anymore. This is speaking to the gang stalking departments in Ontario. The fire department is gang stalking. The police department is gang stalking. In San Bernardino County, the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department is gang stalking, which, by the way, my evidence already establishes this. It's currently 8:07 p.m. This is ongoing impunity by mentally deranged psychopaths who have engaged in kidnapping and murdering and bearing false witness and getting away with lawlessness for so long. The mental illness of these demons is put on, again, plain display while I am documenting their lawlessness and using it against them to prosecute them. And that's why they persist. That's going to penalize them in federal court. But this is because they are so accustomed to public corruption. All right, it's currently 8:07 p.m. This is P.O.C.